You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon Podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, John Santucci, the Tooch, and the man with the plan, Adam Sham. We're bringing you the fantasy football knowledge that you need every single week.
Derrick Henry still going. He might go. 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
Flushed out again all the way back. Turning the corner. Fires downfield. Caught. Touchdown. Only Mahomes turns what might have been a 15-yard sack into a 27-yard touchdown.
Saquon Barkley across midfield. Down the sideline. Staying in bounds. And Barkley takes it all the way. 68 yards for his first NFL touchdown. McCaffrey right up the middle. And he is gone for the touchdown. 58 yards. Pass is to Thomas. He's gone. Touchdown Saints.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cut. Now, while I wasn't able to cut everyone I wanted to, I have cut a lot of you. Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you. Congratulations, the rest of you made the team. Except you, and you.
God bless fantasy football. There are many things a man can do with his time. And this, better than those things.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another football season of Fantasy Football Goon. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and I'm joined by my fantasy football brothers. I'm talking about John Santucci, the Tooch, Adam Sham, the man with the plan, and special guest host for the night, Tooch and Zim Zimmerman. Gentlemen, football is nearly upon us. The best time of year is upon us. It's draft season. Mock drafts, regular drafts, drinking beer, eating wings, and getting ready for football. So, gentlemen, before we go into the nitty-gritty here, we'll remind everybody in the chat that we are going to be answering your questions all show long. So get them here in the chat. We're going to answer them. Then we're going to go through all the stuff you need to know for your drafts. But let's say hello to our crew here. Tooch, how you doing, my brother?
Doing good, man. Super excited, for all the leagues, the drafting. The drafts are a lot of fun. There's a Ballroom draft show coming up.
That's coming up too.
Guillotine League is fun and stuff. And, the show, doing the show every week, taking questions.
Love it, man. Adam, it's been a hot minute since we talked football.
Yes,
how
sir.
You doing, my brother, and what's new with you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Not a lot's new. Just like Tooch said, anxious that we're finally here. The season's about to start. I'm anxious for this weekend. My first big draft with all of my buddies and everything here. We'll be participating in the Old Man Olympics this weekend and winning my draft spot, hopefully. Hopefully winning that top spot.
Does that Old Man Olympics determine draft order? Is that?
Yeah. It's a day-long contest of events, a group of events, and each score, where you place is you get 10th place is 10 points in this. There's like a cornhole tournament, a ping pong tournament, horseshoes, closest to the pin golf. 10th gets 10 points. First is first point in each category. And at the end of the day, your scores added up, and it's like golf. The lowest score is the winner. You get first pick or your choice of pick, and then it goes down the way. And by that point, everybody's been drinking all day and had a great time. And then we do the draft after that. Then we wait about an hour and a half. Everybody gets their mind together, and then the draft happens. So
It's a thing of beauty, man.
It's Saturday, and I can't wait.
We got a question already.
We do. We will get to it as soon as we get to Zim. I know Tooch is chomping at the bit to get into those questions already. I think we all are. But Adam, real quick follow-up for that. You got to give that story to Matthew Berry. If you guys have not read his book, Fantasy Life, it is a must-read before football season every year. Talks about how fantasy brings people together, helps productivity in the workplace, and lots of other stuff like that.
Didn't he just buy Guillotine League too?
He also just bought Guillotine League. Yes.
Scott Fish told the story of the Old Man Olympics on his podcast.
Nice.
Scott Fish of the Fishbowl. Scott Fishbowl. Yeah. I sent him the story, and he told it on one of his podcasts about it.
That's amazing. See, this is the kind of stuff fantasy does for you. And if you're a first-time player, that's right. If you're a first-time player, if you're a seasoned vet, it doesn't matter. Fantasy is life. Football is life, as they say from Ted Lasso. But we do have a special guest host tonight. He joins us multiple times throughout the course of the season, fills in when any of the three of us, for some reason, have things to do. And we're all dads. Sundays have things that happen. So, Zim, how you doing, my brother? Couldn't thank you enough for being here tonight.
Yeah, it's great. I'm super stoked to be here. I appreciate you guys bringing me in. I spot started quite a bit last year, and you guys have really made me feel welcome and a part of the show. So appreciate being here. I'm excited to lay down some fantasy knowledge. I remember the first time I came on the show before Adam was ever a part of all this years and years ago was also a pre-draft episode. I gave everybody a little insight on the way that I draft, the way I do things. And I'm super excited. Adam, I love the idea of your Old Man Olympics. I want to do that now, but I just moved. I don't know anybody in town yet. Sounds like a great way to get to know some folks, though.
I'm too old to do that Olympic thing. I think I'd probably have a heart attack.
Well, Tooch would want the 10th pick every year anyway because he gets the snake.
That's right.
Get the two picks in a row.
There's a few guys that take the Olympics way more. They'd rather win that than win the league. It's like more bragging rights for that.
Sure,
the injuries that are sustained during the Old Man Olympics and the stories to tell. There's war stories at the end.
Yeah,
that's right. And James Hunter in the chat wants to know, Zim, if you're related to Steve Buscemi because you have to be an offspring of Steve Buscemi.
Nope.
I don't really see it, but
I don't either.
But now that I'm really squinting, maybe I see it. I don't know.
Bad vision, I guess. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Hey, I tell you what, he's one of the greatest actors of a generation. I'll take it.
Yeah, he's awesome. So
Foster says he would drop dead. We did get a question here, but we'll answer it before we get rolling and talk. Yeah. We're gonna talk draft prep here in a little bit, but let's take Travis's question. It's a good one.
Yeah.
With Sam Darnold as the starter, what do y'all determine Justin Jefferson's value? Certainly a great question. I will say the latter half of last season proves, to me at least, that Justin Jefferson is QB proof for his fantasy stats. We can go around the horn and answer. Tooch, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, look, it might be one of the most important questions this season because there's a lot of fantasy guys on this team, a lot of fantasy stars, I should say. Jordan Addison, who led all rookie wide receivers in fantasy points last season, he did that with Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, and Jaron Hall at quarterback. So, then you forget that Justin Jefferson was injured a lot last year. He played 10 games. And then T.J. Hawkinson also injured. Forget him. And now they've signed Aaron Jones. So I think you can draft Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, any of these guys, Aaron Jones and T.J. Hawkinson with confidence this year. Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson, I think, are going to be, some players to watch just coming back off the injuries.
For sure. Adam, you feeling thumbs up on JJ this year?
Oh, yeah. Like you said, he's quarterback proof. He proved that at the end of last year with, his last 3 or 4 games with Nick Mullins last year. I know it won me at least one championship, and I know it won a lot of people championships. So if Sam Darnold struggles early, guess what? Nick Mullins is still on the team. He's right there. So they're going to put him right back out there.
Jaron Hall, and he looks good too this preseason.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like Sam Darnold's the only thing they got right there. They've got 2 other guys that are probably just as good as Sam Darnold is. So JJ is going to be fine no matter what. Addison might be a different story there, but.
Yeah, I was going to say Zim is not as optimistic about the rest of the wide receivers, but correct me if I'm wrong, Zim, but you feel okay about JJ.
Yeah, I feel good about Jettas. I also feel good about Hawk. Those 2 guys are genuinely QB proof. They always get their numbers. It's why the Vikings remain a legitimate I don't want to say contender, but like their odds don't really waver too much. If you look at any news that's come out about the team, their betting lines are still very, very similar, even with this injury, because rookie quarterbacks are never anything to count on. So as far as I'm concerned, if you were going to count on Jettas with a rookie quarterback, you should have no hesitation counting on him with Sam Darnold. Rookie quarterbacks are the most unpredictable thing maybe in all of sports. So
love it. All right, gentlemen. Well, we got through the question. Now let's dive into draft strategy. You know, there is a lot of conversation that goes around year after year about what do you do in a fantasy league. It used to be, it's amazing how it's kind of taken off over the years and the strategy has changed. There was a long time ago where, you know, quarterbacks were the focus. Then it became you have to get a stud running back, boom, 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 to start your league. The last couple of years, people have been trending towards getting a top-end wide receiver, especially in a PPR league.
Yep.
Listen, I think it differs on who you talk to, right? Personally, for me, I'm probably going top-end wide receiver in the first round and a top-tier running back in the second. That's me, and then I'll build my team with best available after that. But Adam, I know you and I talk about this every year when we get to this point. Do you stick with your same strategy year after year, or does it change depending on who's on the board?
Well, I mean, you have to adapt year to year, I think. I mean, you want to have the same strategy, I think, but you're going to see years where, like you said, it switches from the running back was the main guy that everybody was taking at the start to the wide receiver. So you've got to look forward to that or look ahead of that and say, okay, if all these other guys take all these wide receivers right now, is there going to be a good one left for me come the second round? So maybe I do have to not take my running back, but you know what I mean? You have to pick the right position there as opposed to what maybe you planned on doing originally. So you have to be willing to, you know, be water in your draft there and change your plan on the spot, depending on what other people do in front of you. So, but, you know, ideally, I agree with you. I like to take that wide receiver first and then a big running back because these days, standard non-PPR leagues are the rarity. You know, almost everything is PPR. So,
yep.
Unless it's either a receiver or a big-time pass-catching running back, and there's really not that many of those left anymore. So, receiver's typically the way to go, in my opinion, in the first round.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And Tooch and Zim, we just got a question in the chat. I think, you know, the question is CMC or a top wide receiver. And you have to answer that question if you have the first pick, because I don't know if CMC's making it out of your top two, probably not. So for me, you got to take CMC because he is a wide receiver as well, especially in PPR leagues. But Zim, I'll let you take this one here. You know, do you have any issues with CMC, or is he a slam dunk for you?
It's CMC as a slam dunk to me. There's too many questions around all of the other top tier wide receivers this year, where in years past it was pretty cut and dry. You know, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, so on and so forth. You know, there's a handful of guys, AJ Brown for a season or two. He might still be up there, but regardless, but there's questions around all of those guys right now between injury and reliability with their quarterbacks and this, that, and the other thing. Devontae Adams is another one. And despite Christian McCaffrey's injury, he's still a more reliable guy in the long run because you know that San Francisco is going to be a playoff contender. And because of that,
Sure,
you have to look at not just weeks 1 through 5 or whatever. You have to look at your playoff push when you draft. I've made that mistake time and time again. So making your picks based on the playoffs when you draft is what makes Christian McCaffrey a lot more valuable, because you know he's going to be ramped up later into the season, even if he's limited early on.
Totally, man. Totally. Outside Tooch, I know the question was CMC or a top wide receiver, but outside of CMC, you get to pick number 2 and onward. Are there any wide receivers that you're taking over the next running back on the board? Like CeeDee Lamb, for instance?
Yeah, I think that's a strategy this year. You know, if you don't have the number 1 overall pick, I think you have to take Christian McCaffrey. Now, the danger is, of course, you know, age, wear and tear on the running back position, but 14 touchdowns rushing, 7 touchdowns receiving. He had 21 total touchdowns. The other guy who had 21 touchdowns total was Raheem Mostert. And if you look at running backs, the top running backs who were drafted in the first round last year, really they didn't do much outside of Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Travis Etienne was good and stuff, but as far as fantasy points per game, the top 5 running backs were guys like Kyron Williams, who finished second in fantasy points per game. You could have got him off. I picked him up off waivers last year. Then, of course, you had Raheem Mostert. He was like an 8th through 10th round draft pick. Devon A-Chain, nobody knew anything about. He was a rookie. I think people picked him up off waivers as well. And then
they sure did.
And then I think it was David Montgomery was the next one. And he was a late round pick as well, a middle round pick. So, I mean, you don't have to take a running back. And in fact, history has shown that running back, you can grab guys late and they can turn into fantasy studs by virtue of touches per game.
Every year. That's right. And we got a great question from Cliff. Has CeeDee Lamb signed yet? The answer is no.
Jamar Chase is the same way, though. They're both on new contracts.
CeeDee Lamb is not signed. They will get it figured out. And listen, CeeDee Lamb loses a lot of money if he's not on that roster week 1. There's going to be something's got to give somewhere. I'm not worried about CeeDee Lamb not playing for the Cowboys this year. I'm not. I don't know. Are you guys worried about it? I'm not.
No, they're going to get it done any day now, I think. I mean, it's not that difficult. There's not that much to it. I mean, the guidelines are there already based on these other contracts that have been given. It's just, and they're not far apart. It's got to happen any day.
I agree.
Yeah, he and Justin Jefferson probably the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL. Now, with Tyreek Hill, of course, he scored the most fantasy points per game, but he had some like weeks where he just wasn't there for fantasy points, so a little boom and bust to Cheetah's game for fantasy managers. But I mean, as far as like if you want someone who's going to be like consistent and have boom weeks, it's CD for me.
Yeah, and Cliff says Tyreek's safer until these guys sign. I'm not concerned about it. I mean, technically true. I mean, Tyreek, you could argue you should draft before those guys anyway. The argument can certainly be made, especially now that team seems to be coming into their own offensively. But again, neither here nor there. You can't go wrong with Tyreek Hill or CeeDee Lamb. I think it's potato at that point, really. We got a great question here, guys. Let's take it here.
That's a tough one. I've been racking my brain over this one.
Of the Texans receivers, who would y'all take first? We talked about this a little bit last night on South Burbs Hitmen, and it's been a conundrum playing in my head pretty much since the whole offseason. There's some really great questions, and we're not even 20 minutes into the show
yet. These are like
the
2 most important questions of the offseason,
I personally, and J2K says this in the chat as well, I personally think it's Tank Dell. I know this is a guy coming off of injury. He was CJ Stroud's guy last season. I know they've added Stephon Diggs. I know they've got Nico Collins. I just know that rapport is there, especially Nico Collins too. But I think it's Tank Dell. Stephon Diggs is going to be double, triple teamed. That's just who I think it is. Zim, I know how you feel about it, but Adam, will go to you next. Going back to that question of the Texans receivers, who's number 1 for you?
For me, I'm only drafting Tank Dell. The other 2 I'm not interested in based upon where they're being drafted. Tank Dell's much greater value come around the 5th round, I think. I think he's going around the middle of the 5th round right now, maybe even later.
I've seen Tank in some of my mock drafts. Yeah, Tank in some of my mock drafts has gone as late as the 8th round, which is insane.
Right. Yeah, you get in 10-team leagues, it can be later like that. And I'm not taking Nico Collins in the 3rd or whatever it has been lately when I can get Tank Dell in there. And we know CJ Stroud loves Tank Dell.
Yeah. Tooch, have you made a decision yet?
Well, I mean, you have to look at it several ways. You can look at it as pure talent, and Nico Collins is the most talented of the 3 because he's just massive. He's like 6'4". He's blazing fast, 220 pounds. He's got the size, he's got the speed. He's difficult as hell to tackle. So if you're looking at it from a pure football standpoint, that's the guy I like the most. However, his ADP is a lot higher than guys you get like Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. So it makes, that's the caveat there. But in preseason, Collins and Diggs have been out there as the 1-2 wide receivers, with Dell coming in as the third receiver. Just take that for what you want. It's preseason though. But Dell, for his draft position, produces the most fantasy points per route run.
Yeah.
So if you want to go looking at that way, but you cannot we don't know what Stephon Diggs is going to be in this offense.
We don't.
Stephon Diggs is a hell of a player. He's a hell of a player. He's a PP. He's a target machine, man.
They have so many hands to feed in Houston. It's tough. I mean, now you got Joe Mixon as well.
Joe Mixon in the backfield. Dalton Schultz is still at tight end. I don't. Zim talked a lot about regression before the show with players. I'm wondering if C.J. Stroud is going to have a little regression. He's got a lot of weapons. So, as far as Stroud's average draft position, is a little high for me. I
agree.
I think you can get comparable numbers from a quarterback later in the draft and grabbing other players at running back and wide receiver position, or even tight end.
No, 100%. I agree on Stroud's ADP. Average draft position for those of you new to fantasy. And by the way, if there's any new fantasy players watching, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Put it in the chat. We'll answer it for you. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you out. But before we get into our picks and must drafts and busts and all that stuff, we're still going to continue to talk about draft strategy. At the end of drafts, Tooch brought this up right before we went live. Sometimes leagues have a kicker and a defense. Sometimes some of the newer leagues, they've gotten rid of the kicker and they just have a defense. Do you guys draft a kicker, or do you take that spot with some talent and then find a kicker later and drop somebody? I've seen it done every year by multiple people.
Yeah.
I like to get in the last round, no sooner. That's my rule of thumb. I won't take a kicker until the last round. I don't care who's there. I'm not taking a kicker in like round 10 or 12.
Yeah.
I'm taking it at the very end. But I'm drafting one because I don't want to have that headache of getting like the last kicker available for a terrible team on the opening weekend. So that's me. Let's go around the horn here. Adam, we'll go with you next. What do you do when it comes to a kicker? And defense for that matter. You can work defense into it too.
I'll usually take defense with my last pick if possible. That's assuming I don't take a kicker. Some formats like ESPN forces you to take kicker. I'll always save those till the last two picks, and then it'll only allow you to pick defense and kicker at the end. So I know like Sleeper and some of the others, you can avoid that. Like Tooch mentioned earlier, you can pick other players and then kind of wait till the last day before kickoff or whatever and drop one of those guys that's not going to play and pick up a kicker and go from there. So that's the preferred method because, why waste a draft pick on a kicker when you could grab an extra guy that, who knows, somebody gets hurt the week before training camp and this guy's your starting running back now. So, that's the point of doing it, of waiting on the kicker. So I would do that if I can, but I usually take a defense with my last pick, though.
Ooh,
try to line somebody up for the first couple of weeks, for 1 or 2 weeks, not necessarily a season-long defense.
Love it, man. Zim, where do you land on the last couple rounds with defense and kicker?
I usually try to treat my defense like a player, because if you get the right defense, they will score for you like a mid tight end will.
Sure.
The right defense is good for 7 to 10 points a year, or a week rather, with the occasional one where they'll go off. So I don't usually draft them too high unless there's like exceptional years, like, Seattle for a few years, Denver for a few years, the Bears for a couple of years there. Bears might actually be back to being worth that kind of pick right now. But as it stands right now, none of the teams currently in the NFL look like they have that sort of overbearing defense that they're worth higher than maybe
sure
13th round pick at highest, 12th round, maybe 12th round. I think you could stretch to 12th round for some of the really top tier defenses. We were talking, Chicago, possibly Detroit, possibly
the 49ers defense probably is up
Niners, and the Chiefs always seem to put up at least a defense that scores in a few weeks. So again, those are the kinds of teams I'm looking at if I'm looking at all. And like Adam, I'd prefer to draft late.
Yeah.
But if the right team is there and it happens to kind of just sit right where I'm like, I like the Bears defense this year. What the hell? I'll take them in the 14th round, For
sure. Love it, Zim. Good stuff. And Tooch, I'll pose this question to you. Caesar in the chat wants to know what round for a tight end. It's a great question because I think everyone's going to give a different answer.
Yeah.
There's going to be a run at some point. And same thing with defenses here. There's going to be a run when they all start to go off the board. And when there's that run, you got to make sure you get a tight end because you don't want to get stuck. And I think this year there might be a little bit more depth than in years past. So I guess that's another thing too. But if you want that top 10, top tier tight end, I think you could probably my sweet spot is like round 5 this year. It might be a little bit late, but that's kind of where I land on it. Let's go around the horn and see who's got a number. Zim, where's your number for tight end? What round?
So I've got, just for reference, or for I can't think of the word. For context, I have the 2nd overall pick in the Barroom League. So I've been running my mocks based on the 2nd pick right now because I don't play in very many leagues anymore. I don't have time for it. I have been targeting them anywhere 4 through 6, unless I'm sitting there in the 2nd or rather in the 3rd with my 3rd pick, which is, keep in mind, snake style. I've just picked 2 players before. If somebody like a Travis Kelce slips into my 3rd round, I'm going to snag him. If somebody like a George Kittle is sitting there, it's going to be hard for me not to take him. Depending on who else is on my team. If I end up with Christian McCaffrey, I won't be drafting George Kittle, obviously. But again, if I can get the elite guys with my 3rd pick, I'm probably going to. However, I'm really aiming to get them at the bottom of round 4 through the bottom of round 6. If I can get the right guy. If I don't get, I've got my list of about 7 tight ends that I'm comfortable taking at that spot. If I don't get any of them, I'm streaming that season. That's it. It's just, it's cases for me,
I will say in all the mocks I've done, and Adam, you may have seen this as well. I see that the tight end run seems to start, and I've done probably about 30 or maybe more mock drafts. I'd say in about 85% of them, the tight end run starts in round 5. Yep. If you want to be the guy ahead of the grain, you're probably taking 1 and 4. If you want to sit back and strap in and try to get lucky, you can wait a little bit. But do you have a sweet spot for tight end, Adam?
I do. It may surprise you, but I won't draft tight end before round 7. I'm going to be 7 or 8 before I even really consider it. I generally always fill the first 5 rounds with running backs and wide receivers. Round 6 is where I start considering a quarterback. And then round 7 is where I look what's left at tight end. And if I can wait till round 8, I'm waiting until round 8. I'll add a 7th round, another wide receiver or running back.
Yeah.
And so I really prefer to wait till 8. And I honestly think there's a lot of depth there this year.
I do. I agree with you. I think this is the year that you could wait at tight end. I strongly believe that. So just a little bit of tidbit for our listeners. Same thing with defense. That run is going to start. Let people take that run. It's going to start a little bit too early, and you can capitalize on some of that talent that's left out there.
When one of them takes some middling tight end, one of them takes that, well, there's your chance to take Tank Dell as your wide receiver 3 or one of those guys is going to be there. That's where you stack that great wide receiver 3 when somebody else is going for a middle tight end, that the 8th tight end is not going to be more than a point or 2 worse than that other one they took. But you're going to have Tank Dell on your team as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good problem to have. Let's see here, guys. I think Tooch put this question in maybe. I like it. We're going to put it up there and float it. We're all going to get different answers here, but this is what this is all about. For anyone new to fantasy, last year Kyron Williams was a fantasy stud that just kind of like people knew he was good, but he was just a fantasy beast, right? So pose it to the chat here. Who is this year's Kyron Williams? And I think the names that we all bring up here are probably going to be brought up again later in the show. I'll go last here. We'll let our guest go first with this one. Put him right in the spot. Zim, who for you is this year's Kyron Williams?
Is it controversial to pick 1,000-yard running back as this year's Kyron Williams? I think DeAndre Swift has a really good possibility of being a guy like this, who he's been really under the radar the last few years, and deservedly so. Kind of an underperformer all around when you consider what was expected of him his first few years in Detroit. But I think in his role with the Bears, if he is the bell cow that they kind of seem to want him to be, he could be that guy. But I don't really have a more clear answer than that. Maybe Devin Achane. That's about it.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. That's what made Kyron Williams so different. Is it's been a few years since we've had a player like that emerge, and he really did come out of nowhere.
Yeah. Love the pick. Adam, who's this year's Kyron Williams for you?
How about Rico Dowdle, Dallas?
It's a good pick.
Ezekiel Elliott gets hurt. Rico Dowdle is going to take over that job, and he's pretty explosive and looks pretty damn good, in my opinion.
Yep.
He's a guy, just like Zim said, he can come out of nowhere. You've just seen flashes of him, but he could take over that job in Dallas and literally run away with it. I mean, I think he's a guy that could do that. And like Tooch said earlier, you could be on your waiver wire or a very, very late pick.
That's a great comment, because I don't think that he would necessarily even have to wait for a Zeke injury or anything. No, Zeke's getting up there in age. He could just outright take the job from him. Yeah,
he's going to be splitting time anyway. I mean,
no, I love that, man. That's a great pick. Great pick, Adam. And Tooch, who you got for this year's Kyron Williams?
It's tough. I want to say Chase Brown just because he's so explosive.
That was my second choice.
Yeah, and same with me with Rico Dowdle. I think those two guys. Another guy I'd mentioned is Tyjae Spears on the Titans. Another guy who's kind of due for, he's competing with Tony Pollard over there. Pollard has a habit of becoming ineffective in certain spots. And the other guy, he's a good weapon out of the backfield too. If he gets a little of both and starts playing three downs, he could explode.
Love it. Love that pick too.
I got one more I want to throw out just while I'm thinking of it.
You're going to say the guy I'm about to say. I can book it. Go ahead.
What team does your guy play for?
Well, that totally gives it away.
Because I'm not going to say it if you're going to say it.
He plays in the desert. He plays in the desert. He plays in the desert.
That's not the guy I was going to talk to.
All right, then who are you going to say? Go ahead.
I was going to say Keaton Mitchell out in Baltimore. He looked like he was going to be in that position towards the end of last season with Derrick Henry coming in. The mention of Tyjae Spears is what reminded me. So thank you, Tooch. But Tyjae Spears, was good enough to take reps away from Derrick Henry last year. Derrick Henry looked like he was on the decline at times. Yep. Keaton Mitchell looked like he was on a real upswing before he got hurt. So when he comes back, there's your Kyron Williams story right there. Guy looks good, gets hurt, comes back, is good.
Love it, man. It's a great add-on addition, and thank you for not talking about the guy I'm about to talk about. I think it's James Conner. Like, listen, this is a guy that, granted, he was fantasy relevant last year, but he's got his injuries. He's played – Arizona was terrible last year. I think they bounced back in a big way this year. James Conner went under the radar as quietly an awesome fantasy player. I think he takes it to the next level this year with this Arizona team. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. James Conner finishes in the top 10 in fantasy running backs this year.
Here's this. James Conner, at some point in the last 4 seasons, has led the league in rushing touchdowns. That is not a made-up stat.
He was like a top 6 running back just the year before last. Last year, I think he missed a few games, or he would have ended up there points per game wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just
he
say
was
that
right
because
there, man, right there from being top 10. He missed a couple games, but
I just say people forget about him. He falls off, and the name comes up, and people get scared because of injury or whatever. He's got every opportunity to be. I mean, legit ceiling is top 5. I believe it.
He's very underrated pass catcher too.
That too, at PPR leagues especially, stock goes up. So he's my comparison for this year's Kyron Williams. Hopefully, we're all right here, folks. I'm sure there's been more questions, and we haven't even got to our picks yet.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. I know I missed a guy that we just talked about, Chase Brown. I think we all think that this is a guy that that needs to be drafted. He's a guy that, again, is going to be on a lot of sleeper lists. I have a feeling you'll hear about him later in the show. So, Alan, keep your eyes peeled for the rest of the show. We're not going to get into that just yet, but we do believe he's worth drafting.
Alan, thanks for joining in tonight with us, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate you. All our new viewers and listeners, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think Chase Brown's definitely worth a risk over Zach Moss.
Yep.
I would certainly agree with that. Tyson, also a new name. Tyson, thanks for joining us. For Dynasty, I'm in a retool year considering moving Josh Allen. I will have a team that can win next year and even better year after. What's a possible trade that I should look for? I need to know a little bit more how your league scores.
Joe, he mentions in another one, Herbert and Caleb Williams are both available on the trading block. So
I would, if you're in a dynasty league, I'm trading for Caleb Williams. If he wants to trade you straight up Josh Allen for Caleb Williams, I'd probably do it. You're going to hear me talk in the show later, and these guys are probably not going to agree, but I think Josh Allen is going to have a huge regression this year.
He could get Caleb Williams plus more for Josh Allen.
I think you probably could as well. I'm just saying sometimes those dynasty leagues, the players will really overvalue their first-round quarterback, which, I get it. But I'd say Caleb Williams and maybe like an RB2 or like a wide receiver 2. Yeah. So anyway, you can definitely get something for him. I would trade Allen for sure. I think he's going to have a down year personally. Alan says, thanks for the invite. You're very welcome. We're happy to have you.
Welcome, Alan.
Yeah, Josh Allen was about 3 fantasy points per game higher than any other quarterback. So
I know.
Hard to dismiss that ceiling at least, or at least that's a high floor, ceiling, floor, whatever. Did he lose a lot of weapons? Yeah. I mean, that leaves a lot of targets open, but he's still Josh Allen. He's going to make a lot of plays with his legs. He's a threat at the inside the 10 to rush touchdowns. He had a couple games where he had like 2. I forget how many rushing. He had 15 rushing touchdowns last season. Mm-hmm. The next closest guy, Jalen Hurts, with the tush push, also had 15. But after that,
I get it.
The highest guy was 5 with Lamar Jackson.
I'm just saying, I think, I just feel like he's going to regress personally. I'm not saying don't take it as the Bible, but I just every gut feeling I have tells me that.
It's weird because quarterbacks score the most points per game of any player, but they're usually drafted, in the middle rounds, third round throughout the rest of the first and second rounds are usually reserved for skill position players, But I can see Josh Allen going in the second round. I'm not saying he couldn't, but you can get quarterbacks later. Joe Flacco was 3rd. He had 22 points, fantasy points per game.
He wasn't even owned until the last 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah. So this is why people stream tight ends and quarterbacks, throughout the season.
Absolutely.
Like what Adam said, you can grab guys later on that are going to get you, a decent enough floor as long as you've got those other guys.
Tyson said he can probably get Caleb and Brian Thomas for Josh Allen. My team bigger name guys are Allen, J.J. McCarthy, Kyron, Jonathan Brooks, Amon-Ra, Marvin Harrison, and I'm moving Adams and Evans for younger pieces.
Oh, I like it. Brian Thomas, I liked him coming out of the draft. I think he's on my sleeper list.
I think he is too.
Marvin Harrison, he is ready to win next year.
Yeah.
He can get a good quarterback. Yeah. I could trade there.
I know we're all Bears fans, but I think anyone with eyes can see that Caleb Williams is a massive upgrade over anything we've had for quite some time.
Yeah, that's it. My only worry with I like Caleb as well. I just he's like all rookies quarterbacks. He's going to take a little time to figure out defenses, NFL defenses. There's going to be some struggle spots throughout.
There's going to be a lot of mistakes this year, but man, he's so much further along than Fields or Mitch ever were.
Yep, but we're only talking dynasty, and that's why. But as far as his outlook for this year, for me, I would draft him as a backup to my main quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is J.J. McCarthy, who's going to be out for the year. So the torn meniscus will not play it down this season, in the regular season anyway. But yeah, great question, Tyson. Appreciate it. Zim, I'll pose this to you. J2K asked about Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones. They're on new teams, of course, and the Packers and Vikings, respectively. Do they live up to who they were, or do they have a drop-off?
I think Aaron Jones definitely has a drop-off. He is playing behind a much worse line in Minnesota than he was in Green Bay. Josh Jacobs, I think, remains the same player in the sense that he will have some weeks where he will outright win you the game single-handedly, but more often than not, he will disappoint you. That is the player Josh Jacobs has always been, and it is the player he will continue to be. Frankly, I mean, and I don't mean anything by this, especially not directly towards J2K or anybody, but I don't personally understand why we're so often high on Josh Jacobs. He, year after year, is a fantasy disappointment, despite the fact that he is a good team player. He does put up good numbers, but for whatever reason, his fantasy impact never feels as high as his impact did to the Raiders. So we'll see if that changes in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Personally, he's a guy I tend to kind of just stay away from because he's just not reliable week in and week out.
See, I'm on the opposite side of the fence. I think Josh Jacobs revigorates his career, rejuvenates his career in Green Bay. Listen, if that Packers passing offense gets anywhere near where it was last year, Josh Jacobs is going to help open things up. They're going to be able to, spread out the ball. Josh Jacobs is a legit threat. I don't think Aaron Jones, they didn't want to use him last year because, frankly, he's frail. They didn't have anybody else. Now they got that big dog, the bulldozer. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be awesome in Green Bay. You'll hear me talk about him later on the show. Adam and Tooch, I'll throw it to you guys quickly here. Adam, you can go first. Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones, who do you think is going to have a better season? And is any of them even worth drafting at this point, besides Jacobs, obviously?
Well, I think similar to what Zim said, I think Aaron Jones is going to be down a little bit there in Minnesota. Not as good of a team around him, especially now.
He was down last year, heck.
Yeah, and especially with them losing their quarterback already. And Josh Jacobs, on the other hand, I kind of agree with both of what you guys said. Like, I think he is kind of the same player, but I also think he can kind of rejuvenate his career a little bit more. Though I think he's had a great career already. I'm always a Josh Jacobs fan. I'm always willing to draft him. My only concern there would be that we've seen Green Bay have the tendency to get away from the run in games very quickly. And that would be my only concern, is that he doesn't get the workload that he got with the Raiders. Because he's as much of a workhorse as there is in the whole league. But Green Bay does not seem to ever want to do that, even when Aaron Jones was healthy as can be, and they still got A.J. Dillon there, right? Don't they? They didn't get rid of him, I don't think. He's still there. So, he's going to show up here and there, and probably all the times you don't want him to, he'll be out there. So that's my only concern. Jacobs, I think, still a great player. He's still young. My only concern is how much they use him.
For sure.
They're both great players.
Yeah.
To me, only about 1.5 fantasy points per game separated the two. As far as quarterback play, Josh Jacobs has a better quarterback behind him this season. There's no question about that. Josh Jacobs, they're both really good receivers out of the backfield. They both missed time last year. I think Jacobs played 13 games and Aaron Jones played 11. So, there's the injury history coming off recent years. I don't see any reason to shy away from either of them, though. I mean, they both have players playing behind. There's no Alexander Madison behind Aaron Jones. So you have to worry about Tyson Chandler, who supposedly is a pretty good player. And then Marshawn Lloyd, you guys have not seen. I'm really high on him coming out of USC. Played alongside Caleb Williams. He's a great receiver out of the backfield. He's explosive speed as well. So you might see Marshawn Lloyd pulling snaps away from Josh Jacobs. But I'm with Zim on this. I think Jacob has games where he disappears, but if either of those guys are staring me in the face for like a middle round pick, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. But great question for sure. We got John Kessick in the chat. We're going to get through a couple more questions, and we're actually going to get into our must drafts, our busts, and all that fun stuff. But John,
we're just having too much fun, though, right, Joe?
There's too much fun, and there's too many great questions. So that's what it's all about. A lot of people tuned in right now, so thank you everyone for watching. John Kessick wants to know, how do we feel about Zay Flowers in a full PPR league? I'm assuming that means I have high hopes. Listen, I think he's a good mid-round wide receiver. He had high upside last year. Maybe it's and the addition of Derrick Henry, I think it's going to help, right?
Yeah, I love Zay Flowers. I loved him last year. I think he should be even better this year. I think that offense takes a step forward another year without Greg Roman in place there. I think Lamar Jackson probably gets to be a better passer again this year. Zay Flowers should really have a breakout season this year, I think. He's like your ideal flex or even wide receiver too. But, man, if he can be your third wide receiver you draft, you're in a real good spot.
Yeah, I'm with Adam. I mean, look, he raised a bunch of good points. There's Derrick Henry. They're going to feed Derrick Henry.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to get a lot of goal line carries and stuff, So that, to me, that this Baltimore offense is going to be a little bit of a question mark for me going in, because they have some pieces like Derrick Henry, who's going to gobble up a lot of touches.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Lamar Jackson, who hasn't been known of being a great passer, took some strides last year. He's also going to take off and run at times instead of throwing the ball. Then you have Mark Andrews, who's also injury prone, coming back from injury. He's a good red zone target as well. And then you have, Zay Flowers might be. This is why the guy asked the question. He might be the fourth option in this offense. I love the route running. I just don't know if Baltimore is the best place for a guy like Zay Flowers. I think, like, if he was in Buffalo or San Francisco, Sky, or the Rams, it's like, watch out. But that said, he finished the number 32 overall receiver, about 13, 14 fantasy points per game. So the floor is there. Is the floor going to get any higher? Or is there going to be any ceiling? I don't know.
I want Zay Flowers with Buffalo now, Tooch. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
That sounds amazing.
You never know. We'll see. Let's see here. We got one more question. Then we're going to move on to our stuff. Alan wants to know, what round do we consider Rome Odunze? Listen, this is a guy that's
question for Bears fans. So
it's a great question.
Yeah.
Bears fans if you're in a homer league, I imagine he'll end up going a little bit earlier, but that could really pay off. That, as you guys have seen, whether or not you watch Hard Knocks or not, there's a rapport going there. These guys have quite the relationship. Could easily be, a great wide receiver draft pick, depending on where you get him. Listen, I think you have to do mock drafts and see where he falls. I'm going to let you guys answer this because I really don't know how to answer it. Who wants to take it?
Yeah, without getting too specific, I would say he's a double-digit round guy around the 10th, 11th round, when guys like Christian Watson and some of those guys are going around the 100th, 110th pick area.
Yeah.
Like, that's where Christian Watson, I don't know, probably I can't think who else. A lot of those Green Bay guys like that, Jameson Williams, some of those type of guys. That's where I think Rome belongs right now. If you're going to take a chance on him this year. If you're in Dynasty League, though, Rome's right up there in the top 5 picks, probably.
Yeah, Dynasty Leagues, he's going really early. He's definitely a top 10 pick in a Dynasty League. But I will say Rome Odunze in whether regular or PPR league, I'd say he's probably like Adam said, I'd say probably after the 10th round.
Yeah. But
great question, Alan.
That question I think is more about Keenan Allen than it is about Rome Odunze, because Keenan Allen finishes the number 3 wide receiver fantasy points per game, just behind CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill. I don't know if you knew that, but I can't have. The only way the only way for Keenan Allen to go is down this year. He's not going to produce without Justin Herbert like he did. I'm not so sure that he's the second best wide receiver on the Bears. I think Rome Odunze could easily pass him, but this is all unknown because it's still preseason, so you're gambling on a couple unknown things or a few unknown things. That's how effective is Caleb Williams going to be as a rookie learning all this. Is Keenan Allen's approaching the cliff. He's going to be 32, or he is 32 years old.
He is.
Yeah, he's looking for a new contract. It's a contract year, so he has that going for him. And then you have Rome Odunze, who's also learning the league, but has a world of talent. Off the line, he's got some real shake, to shake his defender off and get loose. And maybe he'll pass Keenan Allen, but there's a reason the Bears didn't give Keenan Allen a contract yet.
Yeah, and I will tell you one thing, and we talked about this briefly yesterday on South Burbs Hitman. I think Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen are maybe not the same talent-wise right now.
Yeah,
but I will
similar
say
players, Joe.
They are the same guy fantasy points-wise.
Yep.
Whoever has the lower ADP is the guy you draft.
Yep.
Which right now I believe that's Keenan Allen who's going lower. But I guess I've seen it both ways.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
Because Keenan Allen, he's probably not going to have the yardage that Rome Odunze has, but he's going to make up for it with touchdowns. We all know that's the case. He's going to score touchdowns.
As much as I love both of those guys, they're guys that I'm probably not drafting unless I feel really good about how my draft has went up to that point. And I see them on the board and I'm like, man, that would be a damn good, nice depth piece right there. They're not going to be guys I'm going to draft and count on.
For Dynasty, I think Odunze is a great pick. The thing is that this offense, there's only one guy you can really count on drafting, and that's DJ Moore.
Yeah,
Exactly.
or if you
guys kind of they're all question marks.
Or if you're in a league where you get to keep a guy after a certain round, say sometimes after round 12, or after round 10, if you get to keep one or two guys and you can get a Odunze late as a keeper for the next year, I would do that.
That's a great call. Yeah, if you get a Odunze in the 12th or 13th and it costs you the 12th next year or whatever, that would be a great call.
Thing is, he's starting to creep up, like Joe said. I think he's going in the 8th round now.
Odunze's ADP has gone up.
Yeah.
He's gone up because of Hard Knocks, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, ADP Rome is 2 to 3 rounds after Keenan, according to Tyson. There's been a couple that I've seen him, going ahead of him now. He's starting to creep up. So whoever's going later, and if you have your own customized rankings in your league, then you can just follow your own. But most websites use their own rankings, and whoever's going later of the two, for me, is the guy that you're targeting.
Yeah, very well, maybe the first half Keenan's a lot better, and the second half Rome's better. As he gets more,
absolutely
proficient in the offense.
I'd agree with that. Yep. I mean, the Bears' offense this is their first year in this offensive system. On the other hand, it's their third year in the defensive system, so that's why I like the Bears' defense. I'm actually been kind of mock drafting the Bears' defense. I think they're going to get a lot of turnovers, some sacks, maybe some touchdowns. This year, I think that should have finished number 1 against the run. So, I mean, this is the defense on the rise if you're talking DSTs.
Yeah, Tyson says Keenan is Tank and Christian besides him in ADP. Those are similar names that you're seeing right now. I mean, Tank Dell, obviously, you're taking over all those guys.
Yep.
But again, they're all very website specific. I mean, depending on where you're drafting, whether it's Sleeper, ESPN, Yahoo.
So things like Dell and Kirk are so much younger players.
That's another thing too.
You got
to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, is Keenan Allen going to have a decent year this year? I think his veteran leadership probably helps out Caleb's development. When at the signing, I was like, "What's going to help move the chains?"
Yeah,
for the Bears. But I mean, DJ Moore's the
he's the alpha. And I mentioned this yesterday too. I made the comparison that Keenan Allen to me at this point in his career is like late career Wes Welker, right? He's going to go out there, he's going to run a slant, he's going to get you a first down, and he's going to score touchdowns.
He's going to find the open spot in the zone.
That's it.
Yep.
But let's dive in, guys. Let's dive into what the people. I mean, people have got a lot of great stuff already, but let's dive into we're going to talk about a handful of categories tonight. We're going to do our must-draft players, and that could just be who we want to target for any reason. It doesn't necessarily have to be a first-rounder or whatever. We're going to talk about our draft busts, guys that we're avoiding. We're going to talk about our sleeper picks for the season. Then we're going to go into our league winners. Did I forget a category? Of course, our bounce back players as well. Guys that really underperformed last year that we think are going to do well here. But let's get the show off to a booming start here with our must drafts. So we'll let our guests start us off here with his must draft picks. Zim, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, the first one on the list probably looks like a no duh, but a lot of people are overthinking it right now, considering the current situation and the current state of affairs for him. That's Christian McCaffrey. If you're sitting there at 1-1, don't think too hard. Just draft him. It's something that people are definitely going to mess up. His value is just too high compared to the situation of everybody else there. So I think that's an easy one. My next one is Travis Etienne. I think he's a legitimate league winner for a lot of people. He is coming off of his best season as a pro and games where he would literally just take over, man. He would take over ball games. And there'd be games where going into the fourth quarter, he'd have like 7 points. And I had him on my team last year. He'd have like 7 points. And I'd be like, well, looks like I'm only getting that out of ETN. And he'd come out of the game with like 28 points. And it's like, sweet. This guy, he knows how to finish. And that's huge, especially at the running back position. Third on the list is Kirk Cousins, quarterback in Atlanta. A lot of times quarterbacks going to new teams are not always successful. However, Kirk Cousins goes to the home place of Matty Ice, the ultimate put up a lot of numbers and have nothing to show for it kind of guy. And who's the current guy who does that better than anybody else? That's Kirk Cousins. He is going to put up 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns and lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Wow. All right.
Number four, I got James Cook. I tried to be a little edgy with this one, but I don't think it was as edgy as I anticipated. A lot of weapons have left in Buffalo. James Cook remains. He will still have to share the ball. Keon Coleman looks like he's the real deal. Dalton Kincaid still exists. And Josh Allen is still going to throw the ball 75 times a game. The bright side here is without Stephon Diggs there, those targets have to go somewhere, and they're not all going to go to Keon Coleman. That's just right. It's not realistic to expect a rookie to get that kind of volume. So who does that leave? That leaves James Cook on a lot of screens, a lot of quick plays, a lot of opportunity there for him to really develop into a passing game kind of running back as well. Start to really be a true dual threat like he looked like he was for chunks of last season, not the entire thing. Last on my list.
I didn't expect this one. I got to hear what you have to say here.
Last on my list is Terry McLaurin, wide receiver, Washington. Scary Terry returns, everybody. This might be the spiciest take I make all night, but Scary Terry is back as far as I'm concerned. Everybody wants to talk about Jaden Daniels is going to have this great rookie season. Who is he going to throw the ball to? Who is out there to catch the ball? Terry freaking McLaurin.
1,000 yards every season of his career.
That's it. This guy is
with every
the
bad
new
quarterback
AJ
in the
Green.
league.
Terry McLaurin's going to be the next AJ Green. He's just going to quietly go out there and get 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, and everybody's going to be like, "Is he good?" And it's like, he doesn't stop. He doesn't.
I've never questioned if he's good. I questioned how he's going to get the football, but yes,
I'm talking more the general consensus, the idea behind it all.
I get it.
You know, because I would constantly hear that about AJ Green. And it's like, what do you mean? Is he good? Obviously, he's good, but. You know, you hear it about Scary Terry now.
Adam and Tooch know how I bang the drum for Scary Terry every year.
That's it.
And he always finds a way to burn me whenever I decide to start him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
it doesn't feel good with Scary Terry, but at the end of the season, it's 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, and you're like, how the hell did that happen?
It's like,
but he does it, and he's done it with the worst quarterbacks you can imagine.
That's it.
So, I love the pick. I actually had him written down, and I took him off for another player, but I love that one. I love Scary Terry this year.
If he can produce with terrible quarterbacks, why can't he produce with a guy that people are saying is going to be better than a generational talent in Caleb Williams. So,
yep.
I love it, man. Adam, you're up, buddy.
All right. So my first one, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray, quarterback for the Arizona
Love it.
Cardinals, coming back fully healthy this year. He looked really good, actually, from a fantasy standpoint at the end of last year. Maybe not so great from a team standpoint and a football playing standpoint, but Kyler Murray's always been a guy, kind of like Zim was mentioning a minute ago, at the end of the game, like he'll score 20 points in the last 5 minutes of the game because he'll run for 50 yards on scrambles when they're down 30 points. And there's going to be a lot of that going on this year. They're going to be behind a lot. Their defense is terrible. He's got a new weapon, obviously, in Marvin Harrison Jr. Joe talked about James Conner earlier. And another guy on my list here is going to be his huge target, Trey McBride. He's going to be, in my opinion, one of the if you're not going to wait till the 8th round or so, like I was saying, I would on tight end. Trey McBride's the guy to go for. He's usually about the 4th tight end off the board, 3rd or 4th. So he's one of my guys this year as well. He was a target monster last year, over 10 targets every single game once he kind of took over that position for them when Zach Ertz went out. He should be a monster this season. I actually think he'll have a better year than Mark Andrews.
Yeah,
I agree. Tank Dell, as we talked about earlier. I love Tank Dell. A lot of my picks here are based on value. I love the value of where you can get these guys compared to the other guys. Like Tank Dell, I'd much rather take him where you can get him rather than paying 2nd or 3rd round for Nico Collins. And I'm not considering Stephon Diggs at all really this year. He's just –
I agree.
Yeah, there's just too much going on there. He's a high price for what you might get out of him. We saw it bad in the second half last year out of him. And James Cook also, I'm in on that one. I think a lot of us are here. Zim mentioned him a minute ago. I love all the reasons Zim said. Also, the big thing for me is there's got to be some positive touchdown regression with James Cook. He had like less than 5 touchdowns, I think, last year. I know rushing he had less than 5. I think only 2 or 3 because Josh Allen does steal a lot of them, but he's got to get a couple of them back there. I mean, a couple of them have to come back. And all those targets, I think, are going to go to James Cook and Dalton Kincaid, the ones that have been Stephon Diggs and all those guys leaving. Those got to go somewhere. Like he said, James Cook and Dalton Kincaid are going to eat those up. The other guy we talked about already, also Derrick Henry. I mean, you got to take Derrick Henry this year if he's there and you're looking for that running back at the end of the 1st or the top of the 2nd. Gus Edwards looked like a stud last year and put up 13 rushing touchdowns for Baltimore. I mean, Derrick Henry can do that in half the season on this
blindfolded.
team. Yeah, exactly. I mean, half the season he can do 13 touchdowns for Baltimore. You don't have to really worry about Lamar stealing the touchdowns like Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen do. He gets his, but Lamar's tend to come from a long ways out. When Baltimore gets in there, it's going to be Derrick Henry all day. So I bet he gets 18 to 20 touchdowns this year. And I got to have him if I'm looking for running back at the end of the 1st or the top of the 2nd.
Thing of beauty, Adam. Appreciate it, bud. The Tooch, what do you got for us, my man? Must drafts.
Derrick Henry, I'm with Adam. I would consider taking him in the 1st round, depending on the number of teams in the league, because that's a really high floor. Like the first 4 or 3 guys in my list are all guys that have a pretty high floor. I mean, Breece Hall did a lot coming back. He was coming back from injury last season and had a crappy offensive line. They bolstered the offensive line there. There's not really anybody behind him. There's a rookie out of Wisconsin behind him, which you'd want to draft as your handcuff. And then CeeDee Lamb, assuming he signs, and he will, he's just phenomenal. He's got a good quarterback throwing the ball. They did lose their offensive coordinator, switched offensive coordinator, so there's that to think about. And then, like Derrick Henry, Amon-Ra St. Brown. If I was getting Henry and Amon-Ra, man, I'm looking pretty good with the scoring every week.
Yeah,
as far as those 2 guys are going to give me
touchdown city. Yeah,
they're going to give me in PPRs, especially with Amon-Ra. And then the other 2 are kind of speculative. Saquon Barkley is playing behind the best offensive line he's ever played with. He's still Saquon Barkley, catches the ball out of the backfield, still has some giddy up. Now he's got the Cowboys offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, who I consider to be one of the better offensive coordinators. I think the Eagles.
I can't believe they got rid of him in Dallas.
To me, he's excellent. He's one of the top He's up there, as far as offensive coordinators. I would keep an eye on this Eagles offense, drafting guys like Ertz and Brown and Saquon. I think he'll do pretty good with those three guys as looking at the Eagles. Last year, their defense took a little bit of a hit. Their defense was terrible last year. But their offense still put up a lot of points per game. With Kellen Moore, I think Jalen Hurts will be could have some positive regression. And then the last guy, Dalton Kincaid at tight end. This guy, they haven't really tested him with the deep routes, and I think you'll see that this year with all those guys who are gone, Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. It's a lot of targets. A lot of targets. I think Kincaid could get 100 targets this year. That's a lot for a tight end. Mm-hmm. And you could get him, sixth round, fifth, sixth.
You could
round,
probably get him later.
Seventh, maybe.
I'd say seventh, probably.
If you miss out on one of those top tight ends like Kelsey Andrews, Laporta, McBride, guys like Kincaid and Jake Ferguson, I think are fair substitutes.
Love it, man. Dalton Kincaid, definitely a name to watch. Let's get to my must drafts for the season. John, we're going to start things off with Drake London at wide receiver. I think this is a guy that I've been banging the drum on. Kirk Cousins. You'll hear me talk about him here in a little bit too, and a lot on this show. But I think Drake London, with the addition of Kirk Cousins, with a legit quarterback, I think Drake London ends up as a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. And you can certainly get this guy. I know he's a hot commodity now, but you probably got to get him in the second round if you want him. Probably, maybe in the third. But either way, I think he's a guy that you're going to want on your team. This guy's a PPR machine. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns, and he's going to get you a lot of yards after the catch. Drake London, for me, is a knock it out of the park home run. Draft this guy 8 million out of 8 million times. Then I got to mention Devon Achane. You saw what he did last year when he wasn't even the main guy, right? You saw what he did in limited, action. He just destroyed everyone when he was healthy. He's going to have that opportunity to be the guy, I think. He's got a season under his belt. Granted, he wasn't healthy the whole season, but he's got a season under his belt, and he's got the eye of the league, knowing that this guy is a speed demon. He's a game changer. If they don't build that offense around this guy's explosive nature, him and Tyreek, they're out of their mind. Achane, for me, is a back that needs to be drafted well above of his ADP. He's going a little bit later than I think he should be. Will that last? Probably not. And as Tooch pulls up, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the Barroom Network as well. But Devon Achane, I like him a lot in terms of smashing the like button on Devon Achane. This is a guy you want, especially in PPR leagues. He's going to rack up a ton of yardage, a ton of catches. Sign me up. Multiple folks have talked about Trey McBride at tight end. I think he finishes at tight end number 1 this season. I really do. Some of the top dogs are starting to fall a little bit. Travis Kelce, not as illustrious with more wide receiving threats in Kansas City. Not saying I don't like him as a player, but there's other options. McBride, for me, is just going to be that PPR tight end. He's going to be targeted heavily. He's a dog. He's a big target. He's got great hands. What else? I mean, Kyler Murray's short. Who's he looking for? The tall guy. Throw him the ball. Next up is a guy I talk about almost every single year, but this year he's got a million reasons to be worth a draft pick. I'm talking about Joshua Palmer, the wide receiver for the LA Chargers. The last 2 years, he's had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in front of him. He's a speed demon, deep threat guy that always gets open. All those targets, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, they got to go somewhere. I know they've added some help out of the draft, but Palmer's got that rapport with Justin Herbert. Joshua Palmer is going to catch a lot of balls. He's going to have a lot of breakaway long scores. And for a guy that's going anywhere, I've seen he's a guy that's getting drafted all over the board in my mock drafts. I've seen him go as early as 6. I've seen him go as late as 11. Joshua Palmer, wherever you can get him in there, I think he's worth a pick. I think Harbaugh is going to love him, and he's going to get a lot of targets. And we've talked a lot about Kirk Cousins. For me, you're going to hear me talk about him in a very specific segment later on in this show. But everything Zim said, throwing for a ton of yards, 45 to 50 touchdowns, I think it's all true. Multiple 300-yard games. Kirk Cousins is a guy you want on your fantasy team. You can wait and get a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is that guy. I will bang the drum loud and hard. Kirk Cousins, QB1 this fantasy season. Drop the mic. Those are my must drafts. Reaction, folks.
I like it, Joe. I mean, Drake London last season, the most uncatchable balls thrown his way, a percentage of uncatchable balls. So a lot of positive regression could come there. He's got a better quarterback now. Zach Robinson is the offensive coordinator. He came from the Rams, passing game coordinator. So there's a lot to like there with him. And Kirk Cousins, he's a threat to throw 4,000 yards. So that's why people are high on the Falcons guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts. And then what was the other at the end there? Josh Palmer. There's a lot of targets vacated once Keenan Allen left.
Yeah.
Herbert in the first 5 years of his career, he's thrown the most passes of any NFL player in NFL history. So, I mean, with Harbaugh, maybe, I don't know, Harbaugh and Greg Roman, I'm sure they'll throw, but they're going to be running the ball a little bit more. They've got Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. They took the Ravens backfield, big part of the
literally
backfield. But yeah, a lot of targets for Josh Palmer.
Yeah,
totally. Josh Palmer's he's a great pick, Joe. I had him. I thought about him real hard too. As actually our bounce backs, I originally started a list of breakouts, and he was the first one I had on it. There's so many targets are going there, and he's proven himself when Keenan Allen's been out before. When Keenan Allen was gone, Josh Palmer's had some monster games. It's just when Keenan Allen came back, Josh Palmer tended to disappear sometimes, but now he's basically the guy there now. They just got him, and they got the rookie Ladd McConkey they drafted, who's going to be a good player too, but Joshua Palmer should be their guy right now. I love that pick.
Yeah, and I will say Ladd McConkey is substantially higher ADP than Joshua Palmer right now. The value you get with Palmer, and J2K thinks that McConkey might become the leading wide receiver. I think it's Palmer. I do. I think both guys, to be honest, I think both guys are going to have fantasy value this year. But for where you're getting Joshua Palmer, I think it's a slam dunk.
But Ladd McConkey is going to play in the slot a lot, I mean, so it's he's going to come in when they're playing three wide receiver sets. So I like Palmer over McConkey. That's just me. You're going to get more snap percentage out of Palmer.
I totally concur. Good stuff, boys. Let's dive into our fantasy busts for the season. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Adam, we're going to lead off with you here, bud. Who do you got for your bust?
Jake Grizz with the $10 donation. Thanks, buddy.
I got
right.
Christian Watson there of the Packers. He's my first one. The guy's always hurt. First off, he's always hurt. He's never on the field, it seems like. Secondly,
Adam, sorry, I'm going to pause you for 1 second. We're going to take Jay Grizz because he made the donation. We'll take his question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
My man, Grizz.
Jay Grizz, $10 donation. Appreciate you, Grizz. I've got the third pick in an 8-team league, half-point PPR. If Mahomes, Lamb, Tyreek, Gibbs, and Bijan are there, who are each one of you guys drafting? Thanks. Love the show. Grizz, appreciate you, man. Thank you very much for that. That's incredible. Thank you. Third pick in an 8-team league. That's wow. There's going to be a lot of talent in the second round, so keep that in mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got to know a little bit about your scoring, Grizz. You got to let us know here. Is it a
half-point PPR?
I know, but is it a 2 QB league? Is it a 1 QB? I'm assuming if it's a 1 quarterback league, I'm going to rule out Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the third pick overall, you figure CMC is going to go, and then probably CD. Probably.
Yeah. It's between Lamb and Tyreek for me on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Lamb,
whoever's there.
Tyreek, whichever's there. Lamb, preferably Tyreek, too, for me.
Gibbs and Bijan, there's a legitimate chance that they're there in the second round if it's only an 8-team league. It's a gamble, but there is a chance. You have to go with the guy that's too valuable to pass up. And in that case, it's either CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill, depending on who's available and who you like more. Assuming both guys are there. For me, it's Tyreek Hill. He's somebody I'm genuinely considering with the number 2 pick in our league. So Tyreek Hill, he was voted best player in the league by his fellow players. Oh my goodness, if I could find my words tonight, guys.
His fellow players. I mean, Grizz, I think it's clear cut. I think you're going wide receiver and you're going to take best available. So whether that's Lamb or Tyreek, you really can't go wrong. So that's what I would do. And I think the guys seem to be in agreement here. So again, thank you for the donation and appreciate you tuning in.
For
Love
me,
having you.
Look, Gibbs has got a hamstring injury that could be lingering. For me, that would knock him down a little bit. I think I'm not taking Jahmyr Gibbs, even though I love the Lions' offensive line is great, but he's splitting time with David Montgomery. Montgomery had a lot of touchdowns last season, a goal line. But Gibbs, maybe you can catch him on the return with an 8-team league.
I mean, Gibbs was incredible in the second half of last season. I'm with you, too, especially in an 8-team league. I think you can probably get him. He might be able to get him
on the comeback. But for me, the top 2 picks would be Lamb or Tyreek. But I mean, I could see taking Bijan. We've been waiting for that Bijan explosion.
I've already thought it. Yeah, I've already thought it, and I would actually take Bijan with that pick, and then I would take Bijan and try to go Garrett Wilson with the next pick. Bijan, Garrett Wilson would be a great combo there. With 8-team league, you can easily get Garrett Wilson coming back. I mean, hell, there's a chance JJ could be there coming back, but Garrett Wilson could for sure. You get Bijan in half point and then Garrett Wilson in half point, you're money.
Yep. Yeah, there's just the fear of the unknown with Bijan, but I mean, by all accounts, there's a new offense for the Falcons. It's the Rams offense. Rams offense produced fantasy studs at running back. And look at Kyron Williams last year. So.
Yeah, in an 8-team league, I'm going with a stud wide receiver because I know you got to have a guy PPR machine. So for me, it's Lamb or Tyreek, whoever's there. But great question, Grizz. And thank you again for the donation. Yeah. You are the man. He said it's a 1 QB, 3 wide receiver.
And somebody has Garrett Wilson, but you'd be surprised at which wide receivers turn up there coming back on that second round pick.
Yeah, for sure. But now, Adam, now we'll let you go and talk about your busts.
Anyway, Christian Watson, bust to me. He's always hurt all the time. There's a lot of receivers there that are all going to be wanting targets with, Romeo Dobbs. God, my mind just went blank on the other. What was the other rookie they got
Watson?
Last year?
Dontavian
Wicks and Dobbs and Musgrave
and Reed, right?
Yep. Yeah, Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs. There's only so many footballs to go around there. Christian Watson can't seem to stay on the field. I don't think he's that good either. I think he's just fast and strong. So he's not exactly the route runner all those other guys are. So get him out of here. Jordan Addison, we've already talked about him and all his issues. He's in trouble. Probably won't get suspended till next year, I imagine, but he could this year, and they've got major quarterback problems. Tony Pollard's another guy that kind of looked like crap last year all year. He's went to Tennessee now. He's competing with Tajay Spears, who I think's a better player. And, Tajay looked good last year with Derrick Henry there.
Really good.
I think he's going to take over that job from Tony Pollard before too long, really. Tony Pollard became quite overrated, I think. So I'm not in on him, and especially at the price he goes for these days. And Dallas Goedert's another one. The tight end position is super deep. Again, a lot of mouths to feed there. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Now you got Saquon Barkley that's going to want receptions. Those are the Dallas Goedert targets are going to go to Saquon. I think a lot of them. Goddard was a little bit disappointing last year from the teams I had him on. So he's a guy I'm out on because there's so much other depth as well that you can take that are going to be just as good or better than Goddard later. So those are guys I'm out on this year.
Love it, man. It's all valid stuff.
A lot of those guys can't stay healthy,
Yeah.
100%. Health is a problem. Zim, who's a bust for you?
Sorry,
Hello.
my mute button wasn't working. All right, I'm back. First off,
Hello.
Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Philadelphia. I don't mean this in the sense that he is undraftable. I don't mean this in the sense of he is not going to have a good season. I mean this in the sense of his center retired. The tush push will not be as effective this year. That ball will be going to Saquon Barkley at the 1 yard line. I don't foresee him getting these 15 rushing touchdowns again this year, however many it was last year. It's just not going to happen. That's all there is to it. That makes him a bust. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be good. That doesn't mean that he's going to be a guy that you should avoid. It just means that his average draft position is going to be a lot higher than I think it's worth right now. So wait on him. If he's available later, take him 4th, 5th, 6th round. Yeah, absolutely. Any higher than that? Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Jordan Addison, wide receiver, Minnesota. Adam already touched on it. I don't really think I need to expand on it too much more. We all see it. The guy's going to be suspended for 3 games, and he was terrible when Kirk Cousins wasn't there last year. So that's it. Keenan Allen, wide receiver, Chicago Bears, coming off his best season as a pro, might end up having his worst season as a pro. Not because he's not good, not because he's not talented, not because he is declining in ability at all, simply because he is no longer the guy. He is no longer the only downfield target for his quarterback to look to. You know, he has a receiving core where Gerald Everett is not the tight end one. He's the backup. He has a wide receiving core where DJ Moore's on the other side of the ball, not Josh Palmer, not Mike Evans for 2 games a year. Or not Mike Evans, excuse me, Mike Williams for 2 games a year before he got hurt. Yeah. You know, he's getting older. He is on a team that's going to spread the ball around. And oh, by the way, he has a rookie quarterback, which, as I mentioned earlier, might be the most unpredictable position in all of sports. I know we all believe in Caleb Williams, but belief and ability are 2 very different things. So, 4th, Kyle Pitts. Guys, he's not good. He's not good. It's been 3 years. It's been 3 years. We've seen this guy. We have seen more than enough from this guy.
Who's thrown him the ball for 3 years?
It does not matter.
You're not going to give him one more chance with Captain Kirk?
Who threw him the ball in college? Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. The same caliber of players that have been throwing to him for the last 3 years. There's a reason the guy dominated college and did not dominate in the NFL. And it's because, guys, he's a Tim Tebow. He is an all-time college great, not cut out for the NFL. He's just not cut from the same cloth as these guys. I think that's all there is to it. Hey, I root for these players, right? I'm not hoping that this guy goes downhill. Hopefully he proves me wrong. He goes off. He has a great season. He makes somebody a league winner because they take a flyer on him earlier than they probably should. For me, absolutely not. Last one is Stephon Diggs, wide receiver, Houston. As far as I'm concerned, he's wide receiver 2, if not wide receiver 3 in that room. Tank Dell and CJ Stroud had something special last year. Those guys connected, and they connected quick. And you cannot ignore that. You absolutely cannot ignore that. So I think Stephon Diggs, he's not going to get the same volume he's gotten in years past. He's not going to get the same attention that he's gotten in years past. Now, maybe that means that the defense also lets up on him a little bit because there's, so many weapons down there in Houston, and he does get open a little bit more. So while he won't get as many balls, maybe the balls that he does get are a lot more meaningful. So it balances. Yeah. I'm not banking on that, though. I'm not going to bank on what ifs. What I'm looking at strictly is the roster and where he falls into play on that roster. He's the new guy again. That's the final part to it. He's the guy who doesn't know the offense there. The other guys have all been in it for at least 2 years.
Yeah, he might be upset and huffing and puffing a lot this year.
Oh, he will have at least one sideline tantrum this year. Book it. I don't know if there's anywhere you can put money on the line for that, but if the line is over under 1.5, I'd bet the over.
Nice, man. Real quick, we got a question in the chat that I've been waiting to get to, but I was trying to wait a good point to get there. But Jay Grizz wants to know, who do you like more, Spears or Zamir White?
Spears.
I like Spears, but I do
Spears.
like Zamir White as a sleeper as well.
Oh,
Zamir White could get a huge workload by the end of the year, but I like Spears.
We talked earlier about Kyron Williams candidates. Zamir White is on that list for sure. It's just I think he's more of a long shot on that kind of list.
Yeah, Spears could win that job and just be a workhorse too. So Tony Pollard was trash last year.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think White will probably get more touches. That's the one reason I would take. So I like Tyjae Spears. I mean, a lot of talent there.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but I think Spears gets more touchdowns, but that's just me.
You got Zim's busts again?
Yes.
For hot takes on that.
I think they're all kind of hot takes except for Jordan Addison.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with most of them. Like Cal Pitts had finished first with the average depth of target of 12 yards, which is some, that's some depth, mostly because of his speed. He's had shit for quarterbacks. He's got Kirk Cousins, who made T.J. Hawkinson a star.
Loves the tight end. Yeah.
Logan Thomas was a guy that Kirk Cousins made a star.
T.J. Hawkinson was already a star when he wound up in Minnesota. He netted a first-round pick in a trade as a tight end.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Kyle Pitts' best quarterback. That's kind of more my point. Jordan Addison,
yes.
The suspension's going to ding him. Jalen Hurts has nowhere to go but down. The average draft position is too high. Keenan Allen, I think I have my worries. For a while, I mean, his route running and stuff, when you're watching Hard Knocks, looks great. He looks shit. And then you watch in preseason, and he's blanketed. And the age cliff is kind of approaching there. And like we said, Rome Odunze is there. Stephon Diggs, he's the new guy again. There's a lot of mouths to feed over there. With Kyle Pitts, though, I mean, he's either going to bust or he's going to skyrocket. That's what worries me about passing on it. But for me, the price is too high on Pitts. That's the bottom line.
100%, Tooch. And I queued you up. What do you got for your busts?
I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. How much fantasy value is there in the tank?
The most overrated player in professional sports, and now he doesn't get all the calls because he's in New York.
I mean, he's going to get you some. He's a streaming tight end. When he has a good matchup, probably be great. He's going to make Garrett Wilson a star. Because it's going to be like his Devontae Adams. And that's great. As far as Aaron Rodgers as your starting quarterback, I mean, a streamer or backup for me. Russell Wilson, I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh. There's some negative energy there. I think he'll probably get the start over Fields. Could Fields overtake him? I don't know. They both look like garbage to me. The Pittsburgh offense, except for George Pickens, is an avoid for me. I love George Pickens. I think if whoever wins that quarterback job is going to have a real star with George Pickens, man, because that dude, he's a player. Josh Jacobs, I don't know. I mean, like I said, he has a habit of disappearing. Then he's competing with Marshawn Lloyd and I forget the other guy.
Dillon?
A.J. Dillon, the mega thighs. And Gerald Everett, watch this guy. This guy's a terrible route runner. He's awful. I mean, Cole Kmet is heads above him.
You're going to piss Joe off, too. Be careful.
He's terrible. Watch the last preseason game. Awful.
Oh, I saw it. Don't worry, I saw it.
The last preseason game, just terrible route running. I don't think it was a terrible signing for me. You don't need him. Thank you. I mean, it's a terrible landing spot for Fields and Wilson. It's a mess over there. Nick Chubb. I mean, look, he had multiple ligament tears last year.
Tough injury. It was a bad injury.
I mean, do I love the player? Love Nick Chubb, man. I mean, he's one of my favorite players in fantasy. The dude's tough as nails. But, man, that's a tough injury to come back. I don't think he's not going to be available for probably the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season, maybe more. You don't know what you're going to – it's going to take him a while to come back from that injury.
It's a big gamble. It's too big of a gamble.
And Jerome Ford is good.
He's very good. I had him last year.
Oh, you can. I would take – I wouldn't mind having Jerome Ford as my 2 or 3 running back.
That's another candidate to be this year's Kyron Williams.
Exactly. Yep. You got Deshaun Watson coming back. Deshaun Watson's a pretty good fantasy player too. I'd rather have Watson over Rodgers in fantasy.
Oh, absolutely. Love it. Love all these takes, too. Good stuff. Let's get into my busts. I got Stephon Diggs as well. I just think he's not the main focus of that offense. I just I think for where he's being drafted specifically, you just can't take him. I feel the same about Josh Allen, his old quarterback. I'm not saying that Josh Allen's not going to have a good fantasy season. Not by any means. What I'm saying is for where you have to draft Josh Allen, you can wait and get a guy like Kirk Cousins, who I think is going to have a better, equal, if not better, season than Josh Allen. So for that reason, for where he's being drafted, I think Josh Allen will be a bust. Do I think he's going to be terrible? No. Do I think he's going to put up the numbers he did last year without as many weapons? No. So Josh Allen, for me, falls into the bust category for those reasons. Aaron Jones.
I don't know. I'm just kidding. Josh Allen, his draft, you have to draft him in the second round, right?
He's a second rounder, and you can get guys that I think
that's the only thing holding back, because this year he's got to do so much more with so much less.
That's why I consider him.
Yeah, no, I know, but with his talent, he could be a guy that's might have a bump even from where he was.
He could also throw 22 interceptions.
I'm with you too, Joe. I mean, if you don't know what you're getting at that ADP, but yeah, he's gonna be a quarterback that's got to try and carry this team on his shoulders. He already does that, and he's without Stephon Diggs. But you guys say Stephon Diggs is gonna be a bust, anyways. I'm not so sure. There's a lot of talent on Stephon Diggs. We'll see though. But yeah, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Houston.
Absolutely. A lot of mouths to feed also in Minnesota. Aaron Jones coming from one North team to the other, going to Minnesota. Feel like he's got a lot to prove, but listen, the quarterback situation is not great. Wide receiver wise, Justin Jefferson's going to be the guy. Aaron Jones couldn't stay healthy last year. What makes you think he can stay healthy now, playing for another team, going against his old team multiple times? I just don't see it. I don't love where he's being drafted. Again, I'm staying away from Aaron Jones. He's burned me too many times. He's very fragile. Tony Pollard. Nothing. A lot's been said about him already, but he had a down year last year for a good Dallas offensive line. Tony Pollard just couldn't get it done. He goes to a team where he's not even the best running back anymore. Tyjae Spears is, in my opinion, miles apart better. Somehow Pollard's listed above him on the depth chart. I don't know how long that lasts. But for ADP, I'm taking Spears and I'm leaving Pollard in the dust. And last but not least on my list for busts, Austin Eckler, the fantasy darling, top 5 draft pick the last however many years for the Chargers. Tooch got fooled by that last year.
Oh, but yeah, the touches, that's the thing. He fell off the cliff, though, He fell off the cliff.
He goes into a situation in Washington where there's...
And I still won the league.
I know. I have no idea how you did it.
I don't either. Drafting success,
Drafting success.
It's just picking up guys off the waiver and drafting a strong team. But yeah, that really hurt, man. He was out. I don't think he played less than 10
He barely played.
Barely played.
And then now he goes to a Washington team where there's a lot of running backs.
Yeah.
There's a new rookie quarterback that could also use his legs. He's not in a situation where he's going to be primed to be a fantasy stud. Do I think he's going to have 1 to 2, maybe 3 good games all year, and everyone's going to rush and be like, "Oh man,
I think you're right, Joe.
I dropped the ball on Eckler." But no, he's gonna be that roller coaster that he was last year. And for me, where you have to draft him, I'm not in on Eckler. I don't.
Backfield partners was a hell of a player too, Brian Robinson.
Yeah, Brian Robinson was awesome. Listen, I'm avoiding those guys unless I need a backup for like a late round pick. The backfield for me is a wait and see. I just don't know how it's going to play out, and I just think Eckler is going to be the bust out of that group. Plus, he can't stay healthy. So that's what I got for my bust, boys.
Yep.
Good stuff there.
Yeah, a lot of those takes, I'm with you. We got a question, though.
Do we? Did I miss one?
Yeah, I'm hoping that Ty and Smee become a little bigger fan of my takes. Like, not a fan of my takes. I'm just messing with you, but yeah, he's doing the 0 running back strategy. I don't think it's dumb at all.
Yeah, I mean, he's done 5+ drafts on
Yep.
Yahoo. He doesn't pick one until round 5 or 6.
Well,
I tell you what, it's a strategy.
Zim last year, that was his strategy. He was 0 running back last. It did pretty well.
2 years. That is how I have 1 points. I do one league where points leader for the season gets their entry fee back, and I have won it 2 years in a row with the 0 running back strategy.
I mean, wide receivers are how you win leagues, especially in PPR. If it's not a PPR league, I don't recommend that. But if you are in PPR, I definitely think that could work. Want to quickly jump, Zim,
just real quick, Joe. I just want to address something in that question where they ask, "Am I dumb?" And I just want to clarify here: the strategy is not dumb.
It's
However, without knowing you personally, I cannot answer that question.
That's a joke. Yeah, Corey's got a question. And
that's where I wanted to go. I want to thank Corey for his donation. Appreciate you, Corey.
This is a great question, too.
Love the podcast, guys.
Well, all the questions have been great tonight.
Great questions.
Yep.
What do you guys think about Davante Adams? Corey's thinking he's going to be a bust.
Adam?
I mean, they have a new quarterback.
Adam, are you still here?
I'm here. Yeah.
Let Adam answer this one.
That's where I was going. I was going to toss it to Adams.
Yep.
I'm not taking Adams at his cost this year. We saw how things went last year. I don't think things have gotten much better. I know they named Minshew the quarterback, which I do like Gardner Minshew and all, but it's not going to be the Davante Adams of 14 touchdowns everybody's used to of, all these other years with Aaron Rodgers and even the last 1 year with Derek Carr there. You're hoping for, 6 or 7 touchdowns and, 1,100 yards maybe, but that's not what the price is for Davante Adams. So, yeah, I do think he's going to be somewhat of a bust this year. I think the Raiders in general are going to be a struggle.
I agree with you, but hey, they really rallied around their new coach last year. Who knows? Maybe they'll like Lucky Charms. They'll be magically.
They may win a few games, but I don't think it's going to be fantasy relevant.
I tend to agree with you, and we're going to let you go up next, Adam. But I just want to call out time.
Do we have some thoughts on that Davante Adams though?
I just think personally
I got some thoughts on it, but yeah.
I mean, I think he's going to be heavily targeted. I don't think that's going to mean much, though.
The ADP is a little high for me, especially with Jacoby Myers was wide receiver 24 last year, which in a 12-man league, that's a number 2 wide receiver, which you can get way cheaper. Jacoby Myers put together 3 straight seasons as a top 30 wide receiver. Not bad. And now he's got arguably a better quarterback than he had last year. Davante Adams, there's a lot of talent still. His age is a concern for me. But, I mean, he's going, second round? Adams?
Yeah, I think it's late second, early third. Yeah.
He's going late second.
I wouldn't take him. I'd consider him in the third round as a bargain, though.
Yeah, if you have another good receiver, if he's your 2, I'd feel great about that.
Yeah, as a number 1, no, right? Adam?
Yeah, exactly.
Nailed it.
You're gonna have a lot of bust if he's your number 1.
For his ADP, it's just not worth it.
Yep.
All right, let's see here. We're gonna go into bounce backs. Then we'll get to the next question, but we're gonna let Adam lead things off with our bounce back.
I love this topic, bounce back players.
Yeah, bounce back players. Down year last year, but primed for good stuff here. Let's see what Adam's got for us.
All right, I may be crazy with some of these, but, these guys are studs or have been at least at some point of their careers. But I'm not afraid of Cooper Kupp this year. In fact, he's one of the guys I'm looking to draft everywhere I can. I think if anybody takes a step back this year with the Rams, it's going to be Puka on that team. Cooper Kupp's going to get back to the role he's been in for a long time. He's probably the healthiest he's been in 2 years. They say he looks amazing in training camp from a health standpoint as well. So I think as long as Matthew Stafford's healthy, Cooper Kupp's going to go back to having a monster season again. Another guy I like this year is J.K. Dobbins with the Chargers. I know we've been down that road a time or two with him before thinking, this is the year he's going to break out, and then he's hurt again, and then he's hurt again. But I look at Dobbins kind of like Kyler Murray, where they kind of brought him back at the end of last year, and he looked a little rusty, but they kind of knocked the rust off. And I think this year he's going to be fully healthy, ready to go, and on a new team, out of that same sharing the role all the time with Lamar and Gus Edwards and all this, though he is sharing it with Gus Edwards again, ironically, in San Diego, but he doesn't have the threat of Lamar all the time out there running the ball. And I think he's going to be more involved in the passing game with San Diego as well, kind of filling that Eckler role, because we know Gus Edwards doesn't do that. So I like J.K. Dobbins bounce back if he can just stay on the field. And Javonte Williams, man, I've had high hopes last year for him, and he had a few good games, but my main thing here is Denver throws to the running backs more than any team in the NFL. Sean Payton finally got him a dump-off quarterback here with Bo Nix in the draft, a guy that's played a ton of football and knows how to just make the smart plays, a la Drew Brees, what Sean Payton loves. So I mean, Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin are both guys you can get this year for Denver, but Javonte is going to bounce back from that injury he's had. Again, another guy that's going to be fully healthy like Dobbins. They had over 150 running back targets last year. That's insane. So Javonte Williams is a great pass catcher.
Yep.
Beast.
Yeah. Garrett Wilson going to finally get a quarterback. He's put up amazing numbers with just shit quarterback play. Now you're going to get Aaron Rodgers out there, hopefully. And Garrett Wilson should have a monster season. Calvin Ridley, another guy I think was widely misused last year with Jacksonville. Will Levis, if he does one thing well, it's chunk the ball down the damn field, and Calvin Ridley gets down the field and gets open. He's going to get a lot of targets from Will Levis this year. He's by far the alpha on that team. I think Calvin Ridley's a very solid, for sure, draft pick this year that's not going to bust on you.
Yeah, I love Will Levis. That guy really knows how to finish.
Yeah, he gets it down the field, man. He likes to throw it.
I hope somebody out there got that joke, but we'll leave it for another day.
Yeah, Brian Callahan's the head coach now in Tennessee, and they throw the ball a lot. He comes over from, I think, the Chargers, right?
Who's that?
The head coach of the Titans now.
Oh, yeah, Callahan?
Yeah,
Brian Callahan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think Ridley's a great name.
Right.
I mean,
he's the Bengals, and they throw the ball more than anybody. So it's going to be a passing offense. That's why I like the Calvin.
That Tennessee offense is totally different now. I mean, look, you got DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd.
Yep.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley can run the whole route tree and do everything you can ask a receiver to do. And Jacksonville put him in a box last year and wanted him to do one thing all the time. Just run these routes on the outside, run these routes on the outside. They weren't creative at all. Tennessee is going to be that way with him, and he's going to have a big year.
So you guys can read the comments as yourself. I'm not gonna read it, but it's very true.
What you're talking about.
I think Will Levis will be a great streaming quarterback this season, man. He's going to get some people through some weeks.
He certainly is. But I love those candidates for bounce backs. I gotta get that joke out of my mind now. I apologize.
I was gonna say Joe's still caught up on that joke.
I'm on with some of these, man. I think I probably have some of the same bounce backs there.
All right, here. Let's pass it off to Tooch for his bounce back candidates.
Yep. Yeah, I've got almost the same ones. Cooper Kupp, of course. He's I think he's the alpha there. He's just too good. Too good of a route runner. He's so shifty. Coming back 1 year removed from his injury, and then like J.K. Dobbins also. I also like him to bounce back. By all accounts, he's looked fantastic in camp. It's going to be a run-heavy offense under Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. You got Kyler Murray, who showed some flashes at the end of last year, man. Mm-hmm. And then Hawkinson, I think, for me, Hawkinson, you can get so late in drafts, so it's just hard not to consider him a bounce back. It's like the 12th round.
Is he going to be healthy to start the year, though?
No, he's not. He was injured late last season.
Yeah, okay.
But, I mean, it's a great stash.
Because for sure.
When he comes back, he's going to be a nice big target for Sam Darnold or Nick Mullins or whoever's quarterbacking there. And then Kirk Cousins is coming back from injury. There's always a threat of 4,000 yards. He's got Drake London, who Joe's high on too, and I think Drake London will be good. with players on the Falcons, like all the Falcons, like this year, you want to see it first. Drake London, Cal Pitts, Bijan Robinson, prove it to us. So some people might be hesitant to take a chance on some of these guys. Certainly, if Kirk Cousins is your second quarterback, you want to have a backup a quarterback to take a chance on someone like Anthony Richardson or Jaden Daniels, and then back him up with Kirk Cousins. It's not a bad strategy.
No, not at all, Tooch. I love all those bounce back options. And before we get into the next chunk, we're going to take a couple questions here. We got a couple good ones here. We'll start one with Armando. Question for you guys. 12-team PPR keeper league with 2 keepers, keeping Tyreek, but not sure for my second. Barkley for a second, Hurts for a third, and Nakua for the last pick. I appreciate your thoughts.
I'm high on Barkley this year.
I love Saquon. I love the value as Puka for a last pick, but I think Puka regresses this year. Man, that's tough. But that value is so good though for Nakua in the last round.
Yep. You can't not take Puka for the last pick.
I mean, it's really good value. It's hard not to take.
Can't be any better. I mean,
that was I was going to pose this question to chat. Was like, who's this year's Puka Nakua? Like Kyron Williams, Puka Nakua.
Malik Neighbors.
That's great call. Yeah, I love that. I think Neighbors would be good. Just the quarterback situation there is a little iffy. But for me,
out of necessity, he's going to get those targets like Puka did.
For me, like Brian Thomas Jr., Xavier Worthy, or Keon Coleman are good candidates for those guys. I think I know they're rookies and stuff, but Brian Thomas, a physical specimen, is super fast, big. Keon Coleman has been getting most of the targets from Josh Allen. He's also a big target. And then Xavier Worthy, he's got a chance. This is a guy I'm a little high on Xavier Worthy. I think I have him in my sleepers. But Hollywood Brown is always injured. They're basically the same player. They're basically the same player. Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. They're small. They're super fast. And they took Xavier Worthy in the first round because Andy Reid said we got to stretch the field vertically with Mahomes. Now they didn't have any guys to stretch the field vertically. Now you've got Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, solid solid route runners and receivers underneath. You have a guy like Xavier Worthy stretch the field. Mahomes, a guy get him the ball over the top. So I'm high on that. I think the Chiefs' offense is going to take a step forward with Pacheco too. Pacheco came on really strong end of last year.
He did. Love it, Tooch. And Adam, I'll pose this to you from Cliff in the chat. If you guys wait till the late rounds, take a kicker and defense, top ones were grabbed way too early. Who are the guys and teams to target that might still be there? It's a great question.
Yep.
So, like the kicker, honestly, I don't think it really matters that much, Cliff. You
agree.
Just pick whoever's got a good matchup this week or whatever. The defense, you get there, okay, the top 3-5 defense has been taken. Look at who's got a good matchup the first week, maybe the first 2 weeks, and they're a middle-of-the-road defense. That's who you want to pick. Pick one of them. Then during those 2 weeks, you watch what everybody else does. One of those teams has a bad week or somebody scores 40 points on a good defense, somebody's going to drop one early. People do it every year. Somebody's going to get dropped. You jump on them on the waiver wire until they clean up their act, and you can carry them the rest of the season. You don't panic about it. If you don't get one of those top ones at the draft, no big deal. Just pick somebody for the first week or two and play it week by week if you have to even, but just watch for somebody to drop one or cut one on a bye week. You pick them up, and you're good the rest of the season.
Love it, man. And then Yo-Yo wants to know if we got white Justin
Fields. Can I hit the kicker question? Why aren't you guys picking Papi Santos? He finished number 6 overall, and nobody drafts him. He's not even getting drafted.
Yeah, and he rarely misses.
Yeah, and the Bears.
He'll be drafted. I'm
high on the Bears defense too for fantasy. I think.
Somebody will take him in the 7th round in our league. Don't worry.
I doubt you guys could name the top 3 kickers for fantasy points per game from last year.
It's Justin
the Dallas
Tucker's
guy.
Nope.
Aubrey.
No.
Yep, Aubrey number 1 overall.
Moody.
Yep.
Maybe was he the San Francisco guy?
Justin Hopkins, Cleveland was 2nd.
Who's the guy from
who's Buccaneers?
Carolina?
The Buccaneers kicker.
Buccaneers kicker. I don't know. He's Chase McLaughlin. He finished 18th overall, but 3rd was Brett Maher, and I think he was on the Vikings. What was Maher on the Vikings?
I think so. He used to be with Cowboys.
Yep. And he's a free agent now. So,
Badgley was surprisingly good too.
Yeah,
thinking of NFC North guys.
It doesn't matter. You want to take the top kickers that are going are Young Wei Koo, finished 17th overall. Our kickers rarely score more than 10 fantasy points a game. You got a couple explosive games from Aubrey and Hopkins, but that's about it. I mean,
look for Cameron Dicker, Cliff Victoria.
Yep, Dicker. I love Poppy Santos this year. I mean, they're already the defense and punting is going to give them good field position.
Yeah.
So Poppy Santos, to me, I think is got room for some positive regression.
The main point in all this is just that there's nobody that stands head and shoulders at that position above everybody else anymore, like Justin Tucker did for a couple seasons there.
Yeah.
It's no longer like that anymore. You can kind of stream kickers and get by just fine. I did it for the majority of last season after Young Wei Koo went down with injury. And, it was fine. I didn't notice anything. As long as you make sure that you pay attention to your matchups, pick a team that's not going to get into the end zone too often. Last year, Washington was really good for that. And, stuff like that. Just use common sense more than anything. That's my number one piece of advice.
And Cairo's a good choice because they move the ball but don't get in the end zone a lot. Like at least previously, it's like we move the ball between the 20s, but we don't score a lot. Those are the teams you want the kicker from.
Like early in the season, I expect that to still be the case. Caleb Williams is gonna have some kinks to iron out still. He's not playing on Thursday, which means he's gonna come into the regular season with not very many reps under his belt. We all know how that goes. So
love it.
Good point.
You guys stop. It's funny. You guys stop talking when I take the question off the screen. But I'm going to put it back up. Hey guys, non-PPR from George. Next week's my draft. Should I pick in my first two picks running backs, and then a top tight end and top QB, or what should I do, George? We talked about strategy a little bit earlier in the show. It's a pretty proven strategy. I'm curious what your draft number is. If you could let us know in the chat, that'd be awesome. But assuming that you're not the first pick, you're probably going to go with a wide receiver one. Wide receiver, running back, and then best available, or wide receiver, wide receiver. If you're Zim, you go wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, running back.
I will literally get like 4 wide receivers. Yeah.
I know you will.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It certainly works in a lot of situations.
If a top quarterback falls to me in the right spot, like if I'm in like an 8-man league, for example, and Mahomes falls to me, I've got the 8th pick in an 8-man draft, and Mahomes is on the board when I get to my 2 picks. Well, I'm probably going to draft a wide receiver in Mahomes.
For sure. Appreciate the George.
Things like that. Yeah.
He's really not that good of a fantasy quarterback, though. I finished 12th last year in fantasy points per game.
I agree. He's getting drafted way too high.
As far as like a Super Bowl and winning percentage and the best quarterback in the league, I'm with you. But for fantasy,
he's got better weapons this year than he did last
100%,
year.
100%.
I think he bounces back in fantasy terms. Yeah.
Yeah, I think his last year, what he finished with about 18 fantasy points per game. I think he's in the 20s this year, Zim. So I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Let's get back to our bounce backs. I know we got off to answer some questions. I'm trying to remember who even went.
I went bounce back already.
You and Adam went, so I think we're going to go to Zim next.
Okay.
Take it away.
Those are
my
Oh, wait. I can't read, apparently. Here you go.
All right, my bounce backs. I got Saquon Barkley, running back Philadelphia. I kind of talked about this a little bit before when I talked about Jalen Hurts, but Saquon Barkley is going to get a lot of goal line opportunities. He is going to be involved in the passing game pretty heavily, I think. And at least in 2 games, he is going to have a lot to prove. So I think you can firmly count on him. Derrick Henry, running back Baltimore, same sort of thing. A lot of goal line situations, a lot of just beat the rock down kind of situations. I know we already touched on Derrick Henry a little bit, so I'm not going to go into too much depth. Garrett Wilson, another guy we already touched on, but again, if Rodgers stays healthy, Wilson is going to have a big year. While Rodgers might not necessarily have the biggest year, Garrett Wilson is going to be the primary guy out there. And in what could end up being a crowded running backs room, the wide receivers room is quite the opposite, where I think Garrett Wilson will stand head and shoulders above the rest. My last one is the Colts offense. Just the whole offense. Anybody where you see IND next to their name, I think
like
is due for a bounce back. I was kind of thinking through this and thinking about guys, and obviously Anthony Richardson coming back from injury, he was really good before he got hurt. He was like averaging something like 27 points a game when he got hurt. I had him as my quarterback at one point. I was pissed that he went down because it kind of derailed my entire season. The fact that I made the playoffs was nothing short of a miracle. So. But hand in hand with that, you have Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is going to benefit so much from having Anthony Richardson in the backfield with him. You have Michael Pittman, who is going to have an NFL quarterback throwing to him this year. That's going to be a big deal for him. He's going to improve because of that. A.D. Mitchell is a rookie wide receiver there. So while he's not necessarily a bounce back candidate, he has been all over the field for them. He's been catching everything. And as far as tight ends are concerned, Mo Alley Cox is a legitimate option, I think, at tight end. When you start to talk about your top 10 kind of guys that aren't in the top 7, but could be justified for top 10, top 12.
Huge
Mo
target.
Alley Cox.
He's like 6'8".
And he will, he always does. He will have a game at some point in the year where he scores 2 or 3 touchdowns. You don't know when it's going to happen. Sorry.
The other tight end is what? Jelani Woods?
Jelani Woods.
Okay.
Yes. He is very quick. Not really fast, but quick. In my opinion. But yeah, those guys are going to be really valuable to a young quarterback as well. So
100%.
he's going to they're going to get a lot of looks. There's a lot of opportunity on that Colts offense to really have a big upswing this year as a whole group.
Outside of a Pittman wide receiver outlook for the Colts, do you like any of the other wideouts?
A.D. Mitchell, Adonis Mitchell.
You're forgetting about somebody.
The other guy, number 11.
Josh Downs.
Number 10, excuse me. Yeah, Josh Downs. Is he 10, 11? I don't remember. But
I think he's 10.
Yeah.
Number 10, yep.
But yeah, Josh Downs is a very good wide receiver. Unfortunately, I think he might end up being the odd man out for them. We'll see what happens, but
yeah, Mitchell's
he
player.
was awesome last year before he got banged up.
Absolutely. I mean, it's by no fault of his own that I think he might end up being the odd man out. I don't think that there's any problem there.
3 pretty good wideouts there. So
that's just it.
And Shane Steichen, he was the Eagles coordinator, offensive coordinator, and he made Jalen Hurts into the player that he is today. So if Anthony, I'm high on Anthony Richardson too, but the thing is that this could be a boom or this could be a bust. That's the risk you're taking with AR.
Right. That's it. But fresh season, everybody's healthy. There's no time like the present, right?
Yep.
No time like the present for a present.
Did we do Joe's bounce backs?
I'm going into my bounce backs right now. My bounce back candidates, I have Saquon as well. I think Saquon finishes as a top 5 running back. I think he's going to be dynamite in Philly. We've talked about him to death already on the show, but draft him. Don't hesitate. Draft him. Kyler Murray, huge bounce back season. Listen, the guy's going to get it done. I said listen like 800 times on this show. Let's see how many times I could say it today. But listen, Kyler Murray, I really like him. So get him, draft him. He's got great ADP, a guy that's going to do a lot for you. You can wait and get a good pick like him. A name no one's talked about yet. I love Jalen Waddle to bounce back in a big way this year.
I do too.
Kind of fell off last year for various reasons, whether it was injury, that offense. But with Tyreek Hill commanding attention, A-Chain commanding attention, Jalen Waddle is going to coast with single coverage a lot. And I think he's going to be a touchdown machine.
Yep.
Sign me up for all the shares.
He's like
Jalen
Devontae
Waddle.
Smith, kind of. They're both kind of similar WR2s who could. These two guys might be WR1s on other teams. Waddle and Devontae Smith.
Exactly. So I think Waddle's going to have a big bounce back year. I'm targeting him wherever I can. Again, he's fallen. His ADP's fallen from where it was last year, and I think it's a great value. I am on the opposite end of the spectrum with all these my co-hosts. I love Kyle Pitts. I'll take him in every aspect possible for where he's being drafted. I still love it for what he's going to get with Kirk Cousins throwing in the ball. They're going to totally be a different offense. Kyle Pitts is going to be used properly. That's a point of emphasis for them. So I think Kyle Pitts, top 3 tight end, is going to score a lot of touchdowns this year. Red zone threat extraordinaire.
I'm with you.
And Josh Jacobs, no one else besides me seems to think he's primed for a bounce back. Listen, Josh Jacobs just finds a way to get it done. He's going to be on a team that's going to open things up with a passing game. They just paid their quarterback of the future a boatload of money. They're going to throw the ball. He's going to help open it up with the play action. Listen, the box is not going to be stacked against Josh Jacobs. At least I think Josh Jacobs is primed for a solid season. Is he going to be RB1 at the end of the season? Absolutely not. But I do think he's going to be worthy of a running back one spot on your roster. Definitely a quality RB2 in fantasy. Josh Jacobs, I'm on board for this year.
It's an interesting signing for the Packers. There's a lot of talent with Josh Jacobs. Like Zim said, he has trouble staying healthy. He's a little hit or miss. Can disappear. Historically, for me, the Packers have never really utilized the running back in a showcase. Like they would, like someone like Jonathan Taylor. Or Derrick Henry, but it's interesting. I would really like to see. I don't know how the Packers are going to use Josh Jacobs right now. It's like Houston. There's 4 wide receivers who are pretty darn good, and then Jordan Love, who I think is kind of unproven. I mean, he did 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards last year, which is pretty incredible. But did he take people by surprise? Maybe the league figures him out this year. Defenses take him out. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jordan Love is a player who I would draft if the ADP is right. And I miss out on some quarterbacks. And let's say you miss out on some of those top quarterbacks. The big guns, and you're getting down to where like Brock Purdy and Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, and all those guys are. I wouldn't mind having Jordan Love as my quarterback. I just wonder if Green Bay is going to be more of a passing offense than a running offense. I guess that's my main thing with Josh Jacobs, but the talent is definitely there. Good receiver out of the backfield, hard runner.
Yeah, I just think he's a good fit for them. We'll see. Season will tell, but I think he's a good bounce back candidate. All right, we got through.
Cliff's comments like, yeah, sounds like the guy they just let go is Aaron Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
Aaron Jones is a very talented running back, but also has a problem staying healthy.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on into sleepers, and we're going to lead things off with our boy Adam here. Adam, what do you got for us for sleepers heading into the season?
Well, one of the guys I mentioned earlier, Rico Dowdle for Dallas. I think he's
love that.
Yeah, he's a very late pick. You can get very late towards the end of your draft. That we spoke earlier. He's basically just playing behind and alongside Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think anybody has much confidence in that at all, other than maybe
he's a good runner, man. He's a good runner.
Yeah,
Rico, he's shifty, tough runner inside too for a smaller back, and he's fast. Yeah, I love that.
Hopefully he can break the long ones and keep Zeke off the field at the goal line and just score from 10 or 15 out. So that's the plan. I think he's a great guy to grab late as a flyer.
Can I ask you a quick question? Because I'm with you on Rico all the way, and you have Jaleel McLaughlin there. Sorry to interrupt, but in any given fantasy season, there's about 400 touches for running backs on any team. So Rico, 200 touches for a running back in fantasy, is a draftable good player. You got Jaleel McLaughlin, who Adam brought up earlier, that the Broncos pass a lot to the running back, and I think McLaughlin will get plenty of snaps. But you're looking at 400 snaps. I think Dowdle gets 200. I don't know how much Zeke has left in the tank, so I'm with you on Rico 100%.
Love the late round. 200 snaps easy. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, figure if you break that 400 out, I mean, even if you gave, 200 snaps for Zeke, no way.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, exactly.
No way.
Not happening.
Yeah, not happening. So yeah, I love it. He's explosive. Yep. I think he's got the opportunity on a great offense. I grab him late when you can. The other guy, Khalil Shakur for Buffalo.
I love this.
We've talked about all the targets that are open available there. He's possibly the number one wide receiver, honestly. There,
I agree.
Of last season, he was their number one wide receiver.
Right. I mean, he's the most familiar. Josh Allen's going to trust him more than anybody else for sure, other than Dalton Kincaid maybe. But as far as the receivers go, this is going to be the first look, I think, for Josh Allen. So again, I think he's a guy that's going in like the 10th or 11th round, maybe even later than that right now. So Shakur's a great pick late. McLaughlin, you mentioned a minute ago for Denver. I talked about how much they throw to the running backs. And then McLaughlin looked really good last year at the end of the last season.
Yep.
I think him and Javonte Williams are both just great picks for the value of where you can draft them at. They don't cost you much at all. Jameson Williams is another guy for Detroit. He kind of had some splashes last year, but they've talked about wanting to get him more involved this year. We know Jared Goff spreads the ball around. Jared Goff can easily supply 2 or 3 guys that have great fantasy seasons. Jameson Williams should break out. He's been more of a big play guy thus far in his career, but I think Goff's going to get him more consistent as a contributor every game with more consistent targets. And then Xavier Worthy, Tooch mentioned him a few minutes ago. I did have him on my must draft list, actually, and I swapped him out and put him on this list instead just because he's a rookie. But, I mean, he's exactly what Kansas City needs right now.
He's their Tyreek Hill.
He's just like Hollywood Brown, but he's available. Hollywood Brown's never available, okay?
Exactly.
Hollywood Brown's small, just like Xavier Worthy is, but Hollywood Brown is very frail. Xavier Worthy's got a little more muscle on him, I think. A little more stout. We've seen Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, these fast little guys. Patrick Mahomes loves them. Okay, Xavier Worthy was drafted in the first round with big reason for that. You know, they plan on using him right away. I expect him to catch some of those deep touchdowns this year. Him and Rashee Rice are going to be the main guys. You can't count on Hollywood Brown at any time.
Yep. Worthy might be the fastest player in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, by the clock he is, you know.
Yep.
So
Tyreek Hill, you know, he's stepping into the Tyreek Hill role.
Exactly. And he's got the moves and everything too. I mean, I think he's going to be a quick contributor on that team. I mean, they need him. He has to be.
Yep, they definitely need him.
Going to be a great value wherever
we'll
you
find
can
out
get him.
first game of the season against the Ravens.
Coming up here real quick.
Well, that's a good game. Start off, huh?
Yes, it is. Let's dive in. I'm going to do my sleeper picks for the season here. So let's see what I got. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but a tight end, Jake Ferguson for Dallas. He was an absolute beast last year.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that you could get surprisingly late in your draft. He's a tight end number 1. He's going to get you a tight end number 1 numbers. He's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to catch a lot of balls. He's a great PPR tight end. Why his ADP is so low, I don't understand. He's not really a sleeper, but for where he's being drafted, he's a sleeper. So Jake Ferguson, if he's available and you see him later on, I mean, I think he can go earlier than his ADP, but this guy's a stud. He's going to get it done for you. So Jake Ferguson for me, obviously, especially if CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, but even if he does, Jake Ferguson's still going to see the targets. We've talked a lot about Khalil Shakir for Buffalo. I think he is the wide receiver number 1, clear cut.
Yep.
Target machine, going to score a lot of touchdowns. You're going to wish you drafted him earlier.
If you miss on some of those top guys, I would come back and grab this guy's, maybe a round early.
You could reach on Shakir, and
like
it's not going to hurt you.
Josh Palmer type,
Yeah, Shakir's not going to hurt you. Another guy in that same stratosphere, Rashid Shaheed for New Orleans. This is a guy that got a lot of balls last year. He is an unsung hero. He's running empty in the middle of the field. He gets a lot of trust out there. So I think
ends up in the backfield.
Exactly. He's all over the place. He gets open. He's exactly what you look for in a sleeper, a late round flyer, and he's going to get it done for you. This next one is kind of controversial. People are going to think I'm crazy, but Daniel Jones, he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's got a lot of new weapons. He can use his legs and run. Yep. Daniel Jones is worth being drafted in all leagues, whether it's in the last round or the very end, especially in leagues that you can look at some of the matchups. I don't care. Zim left. This is a sleeper. This is exactly what a sleeper is.
I lost both my quarterbacks in one league. I don't remember which league it was. I think it was Goon League, and I had to go with Daniel Jones. I did okay. I'm not gonna, not until he was injured.
But it's a different offense. They've got different stuff. I mean, listen, he's the guy that gets a lot of. He's paid. He's going to get in there. He's going to get his reps. Do I think he's going to be the
dating Kay Adams now, so his confidence might be up.
Is he really?
Supposedly.
He's kind of a weird dude, though. from all told, his teammates say he's a weird guy, but so is Will Levis, though.
Daniel Jones is a sleeper. That's what the section is. He's a sleeper.
It's not that I dislike
He's
the
charging
pick.
the flamethrower.
It's not that I dislike the pick.
flamethrower.
It's just that as a fan of the NFL, I feel like if I don't laugh at you, I'm not really a fan of the NFL.
I saw him priming the flamethrower.
I mean,
I honestly, as a fantasy guy, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like
He does run. He's a good running quarterback.
he's a guy that's some leagues might not even get drafted. That's going to help you.
Yeah.
And, like he's
I'll
a
put
guy
it
that's
this
going to
way.
go really late in guillotine, and he's going to help somebody in guillotine skirt by for a few weeks.
I used
There's-
him last year in guillotine 1 week.
There's nothing wrong with him in fantasy. There is something so wrong if you're going out and buying a Daniel Jones jersey, though.
I didn't say to do that for the record.
Right.
I'd rather wear the jersey I'm wearing right now, which is Bobby Boucher from the Waterboy.
Classic.
And my last sleeper pick is Chase Brown, running back for Cincinnati. This is a guy, he's electric, he's fast, he's going to get opportunities.
Yep.
He's going very late and not at all in some 10-man leagues. This is a guy you got to take a flyer on. I strongly believe that he's going to be a name that's going to be talked about a lot. He's going to be one of those hot waiver wire acquisitions week to week, maybe even as soon as early in the season. So,
there's going to be about 50% people happy and 50% people unhappy with that Cincinnati backfield. With whether they choose Zach Moss or Chase Brown, but I'm on the Chase Brown side, Joe.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. I think he's a quality player and definitely a sleeper, someone to keep on the radar. But Adam, let's did we do yours yet? Yeah, we let off with you, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Am I the only one left? I think.
I don't think we went to Zim yet, did we?
I have not gone either. No.
Okay.
All right. Let's
Zim and I
go.
haven't gone yet.
Let's go to Zim quickly for his sleepers, and then we'll finish up with Tooch.
Yeah, my list is pretty short.
Well, could be really long depending on how you interpret the first one.
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna take the second two and then attack the first one. I probably should have ordered this differently. Pat Freiermuth, tight end, Pittsburgh. Feels weird to call him a sleeper, but I think he's being overlooked by a lot of people. I don't know exactly what his ADP is, but
it's very low.
He has two quarterbacks that struggle to push the ball downfield sometimes. And that's where tight ends excel a lot. So yeah, Pat Freiermuth, I think, is going to be an excellent target in Pittsburgh. I think he's somebody who could end up being a nice sleeper pickup if you're struggling to find a good tight end option. Yeah, overlooked because of last year. That's fair.
Terrible quarterback play last year.
Absolutely. Thankfully, he has two NFL quarterbacks. They're just like number 31 and 32. You know what I mean?
Not much change, Sim.
Right. So I don't know. I think both of those guys are a clear step up from Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was not NFL caliber last year. That's all there is to it. They turned to Mitchell Trubisky at points last year, not because Kenny Pickett
Mason Rudolph looked like the best one.
Exactly. Mason Rudolph had a couple of really good games there. Yeah. And I think he is, without argument, a backup quarterback in the NFL. So for him to look like the best of the three, that's concerning for that room. So anything's a step up from there. It brings Pat Freiermuth more viability now again.
Absolutely.
I have Cole Kmet on here as a sleeper. I think this is less of a sleeper by any account than Pat Freiermuth. But I think that Cole Kmet has a chance. It's a bit of a long shot, but I think he has a chance to become a true elite level tight end this year. I'm talking a top 3 tight end in the NFL. We'll have to see what happens. But if Caleb Williams develops the way that a lot of people think that he will, and Cole Kmet gets the opportunity that we all saw him basically ask for last year in his role, I think that he could really develop and turn into somebody who catches 8 to 12 touchdowns, goes for 800 to 1,200 yards, along with 60 to 80 catches. I don't think any of those are ridiculous numbers at all for him. If you were looking at this at the end of the year and said, Cole Kmet caught 13 touchdowns for 1,000 yards on 80 catches, I don't think anybody would bat an eye at that. They'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. And that is elite tight end status. I think that's where Cole Kmet's projections were when he was drafted. And I think that is where he is headed should this offense go the way that we as Bears fans all think it will go.
He's obviously the best, to me, obviously the best tight end on the Bears. They have this love affair with Gerald Everett, who I think is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, Everett finished, 20th overall? Kmet was number 8 overall. You know,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Shane Waldron's offense also loves tight ends, you know, so I just
there's a lot of this going on in the chat right now. People concerned, you know, Caleb's a big play hunter. Kmet's going to be ignored in the red zone because of the wide receivers. We saw the Odunze deep ball. The dight end was wide open.
I disagree.
The thing is, Shane Waldron loves his tight ends. If Cole Kmet is not getting involved enough, Waldron's going to go send out a 3 tight end set where Cole Kmet's the primary target. He's going to get him targeted.
He's excellent in the red zone.
Now, again, I have a lot of bias on this one. I'm a lot more knowledgeable about this one as a Bears fan versus a lot of other things. But okay, I see what Cliff is saying. He's going to be ignored by defenders because the wide receivers are going to be taking all the attention away. I get that. Yeah. And yeah, that's an excellent point. You know, when everything's covered, that's it. And when you're trying to stretch the field, when everything's going deep, and then you got Cole Kmet on a 5-yard comebacker, and all he's got to do is beat a linebacker. Well, he can do that. So
6 touchdowns last year. It's nothing to sneeze at.
No, he's been somewhere between 6 and 8, I believe, almost every season.
Yeah. I hate the way that they're going to divvy this up among tight ends because Cole Kmet is head and shoulders above Everett.
Everett, I don't think will get targeted as much, and because of that, Kmet will end up in the game as much.
The past couple games, they've tried to force Everett the ball, especially the last game. It's like, stop throwing to him. I don't know whether it's like Williams just, not as comfortable with the offense, and Everett was some kind of outlet. You know, I know it was a primary read on a short slant. He didn't even make it to the sticks. Well, on 3rd down.
And again, with all of this, who's a rookie quarterback's best friend? His tight end. So that's going to go a long ways in all of this as well.
Speaking of rookies, my biggest sleepers, I think, are the rookie wide receivers across the league. All of them. I don't think there is a single one that you would be hard pressed to draft where they are expected to be drafted, if not lower or higher. I mean, I think this might end up being a generational wide receiver class.
Yeah, excellent.
The 3 guys that were in the top 10, I think, are all legitimate options for fantasy drafts. I think that, guys I've already mentioned, like A.D. Mitchell and Keon Coleman, are going to be very, very good. I think Keon Coleman might immediately end up being wide receiver 1 out in Buffalo. This goes even deeper. We talked about Ladd McConkey at points during this show. We haven't even mentioned Xavier Legette yet, who, guess what? Bryce Young is starting to look like a number 1 overall pick. And who's his receiver down there but Xavier Legette? He's going to get his targets. Yes, Legette could end up being the number 1 wide receiver in Carolina. J2K, I completely agree.
I think it'll be Deontay this season, though.
It very well could be. It very well could be. Johnson. It should be, considering what they gave
stacked.
Up to get him.
They have Adam Thielen, too.
They have Adam Thielen down there as well. Exactly. So I think this rookie wide receiver class is deep. I think it's going to be special. I think a lot of these guys are going to get a lot of opportunities, and a lot of them are going to be in this league for a long, long time. I think 10 years from now, when we look at some of these guys around the league, we're going to go, wow, they were all in the same draft class.
Some of them you're going to be drafting in the 1st round. I love this. I love this take because this draft
Xavier Worthy. There you go. There's another one.
These wide receivers, rookie wide receivers, and even some of the running backs, most of the rookie wide receivers this year are going to make this a deeper fantasy draft than we've had in the past. I think this draft's really. You get down to like the last pick, there's still quality guys. There's still quality guys out there.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking at some of the guys going undrafted in some of these leagues, and it's like, man, if there's injuries this year, what a year!
And there will be.
I've got 2 of them sitting here: Xavier Worthy and Brian Thomas. Both of them are rookie wide receivers. They've got. We're all high on Khalil Shakir because I think he showed at the end of last season he could be a number 1 receiver in that offense. Yeah, I'm with you, JTK. I love Worthy. I've been drafting him in mock drafts, where I can get him. He could be a guy that puts you over the top with Mahomes if he gets that Tyreek Hill type connection. I mean, he's a guy that can give you 6 catches a game, maybe. You're looking at close to 100 yards.
Keon Coleman is the guy to keep an eye on for me.
Yep.
I think with Stephon Diggs gone there,
yep.
Josh Allen's really going to be looking for somebody. If I had to pick just one of these guys that I'm really going to go all in on, I think that's the guy is Keon Coleman.
Yeah,
something about him just feels different. It just looks different.
Yeah, I liked him too in the draft. He's not the fastest guy. He's very shifty. Yeah, Malik Neighbors, great best route runner in this draft.
Yep. You want my hot take? I think Malik Neighbors is the one who's most likely to bust.
Yeah,
really.
He doesn't have the best quarterback play. Xavier Worthy has the best.
I don't think it matters though.
I have literally.
Xavier Worthy is a great route runner. You'll see.
Sources trust me, bro. I have nothing to back up this feeling. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. For some reason, he seems like the one.
Yeah, I do too. I love Keon Coleman. He's very shifty in the open field. He's a big target. And by all accounts, Josh Allen has been targeting him the most in preseason. But, there's Chase Brown and Ty J. Spears, 2 running backs to keep an eye on. Brian Thomas Jr. is super fast. Trevor Lawrence got a big arm. He's going to be fighting for some targets with Christian Kirk and Evan Engram. Engram's a guy that, I think is due for a little bit of regret. There's only one way to go down. I don't know if Engram can –
he was really good to end the season.
He was great the whole year. He's been great every year.
But that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah, exactly. He's been great every year. And I think Engram's a fine pick as well because at the tight end position, he still has a great floor. He's going to get you, he's going to be targeted a lot. He's going to get you a good base. If you miss out on the top guys, is a great pick. It's like those guys after the top few guys, like Joe said, Jake Ferguson, Evan Engram, and whoever. What else? What was the other guy we were mentioning? Dalton Kincaid. Those 3 guys are going to be good second tier of
Dalton
tight
Schultz.
ends. Yeah. Yep.
Adam, we've talked a lot about tight end, and we've talked about tiers. There's a name that I want to bring up to you to get your thoughts because we talk about him, I feel like, every year, but last year we talked about him a lot. I got to get your thoughts, Adam, on Isaiah Likely and his draftability because obviously we know the talent's there, but what do you think about him as a player?
I mean, he's a great player. We've seen him fill in awesome when Mark Andrews is not there. I guess it remains to be seen how good he's going to be involved this year or how much he'll be involved with Mark Andrews out there this year. I think I don't know. I mean, he's not somebody I'm looking to draft, but he's definitely a late guy that you could add. If you're one of those people that likes to have 2 tight ends, a second one on your roster at the end, he's a good guy to draft. We've seen he has a great knack for finding the end zone. Lamar seems to like him for sure. He kind of reminds me of Darren Waller, honestly, is who he reminds me of as a player.
Mark Andrews, he can never stay healthy. I love the player.
No, that's what I mean. He's a good one. If you want to have 2 tight ends, he's a good one to grab because he may get action anyways, and then there's a very good chance Andrews is going to get hurt at some point. So and when he gets hurt, likely he's a tight end 1 when Andrews is hurt. I mean, pretty much every week.
Yeah, I love Andrews,
leagues.
but I don't think I don't think at his ADP in the injury history, I don't think he's worth the draft position value.
No, I'm out on Andrews for going usually as tight end 2 or whatever. There's no way. Yeah.
I love Andrews. I think Likely needs to be drafted. In guillotine leagues especially, this is a guy that someone gets hurt. He can get hurt week 1, week 2, and then you got yourself tight end number 1. It's like Adam said. So, Likely is a guy that is likely going under the radar.
I'm going to have to check out, guys. I got to be up for work at 4:30 in the morning.
All right, brother. Wait, how about his league winner pick?
Though? Yes. We'll go to our league winners, and then we'll let Adam get out of here.
Yep. My girls are going to go there. I can hear them clomping around.
Yeah.
Too.
I know. We're going long, boys.
My league winner pick would be Jaden Daniels for Washington.
I like it. Yep.
Kind of tied it to Zim with McLaurin. Somebody's got to be throwing him the ball, right? Well, that guy's going to be Jaden Daniels. My theory is Jaden Daniels could be had in the double-digit rounds right now.
Yeah.
He's about the 10th or 11th quarterback or later. People are going crazy over Anthony Richardson. Well, Jaden Daniels is twice the passer of Anthony Richardson with all the running ability as well.
Yep.
So why are we letting Jaden Daniels go to the 10th, 11th round, but we want, Anthony Richardson as top 5 quarterback?
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense to me because Jaden Daniels honestly should be better. And he's got great weapons. Now you're talking about Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson, I think, was way underused again out there and still has plenty of potential to grow on out there. I mean, he's been horrible quarterback play. So you had Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler now, Brian Robinson in the running game. They still have Logan Thomas at tight end, right? I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
I
do.
think so. He's injured right now. They drafted Ben Sinnott, who I like as a late round flyer.
Well, I mean, you put Jaden Daniels' passing game together with his running ability, and I mean, he can easily win you the league from a standpoint of not just from the points he's going to get you, but from the value you got drafting him late, because your roster is going to be better that you waited on the quarterback and stacked it with a better receivers and running back depth. And then you've got this quarterback getting you 20-something points a game because, he runs for 50 yards a game, plus he's throwing 200 yards and a couple touchdowns.
I struggled, to be honest. It was either Richardson or Daniels for me.
Yeah, and to me, it's like with the
you could
price
pick either
difference.
one. Yep,
Yeah,
the price
difference. You take Daniels because Daniels to me is like Kyler Murray with maybe even a better passer. Well, that remains to be seen, but
but he doesn't have the experience of Murray. But I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah,
and Daniels is going to rush for more than Murray, I think.
Right, I think so too. So he's my league winner just based on, like I said, where you can get him and what the upside he's going to give you, and it's a very low floor. I think. I mean, a very high floor with him.
Yep.
I love it, man. Adam, great league winner pick. Again, thanks for all the insight tonight. Sorry for keeping you up so late, but
no problem. It's been
we'll
a
be
blast
looking forward to talking with you every Sunday morning leading up to kickoff after the Barfly Tailgate Show. And you know where to find us. Make sure you give Adam a follow on X/Twitter at PapaBear816. Adam, can't thank you enough, buddy, for hanging out. The three of us will wrap things up here, but we'll let you get to it, and can't wait to draft starting next week with you.
That's right. Thank you guys for all the fun talk tonight. I appreciate it. It was a great time. You guys have fun wrapping it up. And thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight, especially all the new people. And all the oldies, is good to see you again. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.
All right.
Good night.
Later, Adam. Adam Sham, everybody, the man with the plan. You know what to do. He's the man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with that. Actually, I agree with Adam now that I think about it even more. And I had a struggle with this one, whether it was AR or Jaden Daniels, but I think those two guys, and Adam's right. The late round pick of Jaden Daniels could be the sleeper league winner.
I love it. Let's get into the rest. I know you talked about yours a little bit already, Tooch, but
go ahead, you guys.
I'm going to go. I really believe it. I banged the drum earlier in the show. I really think Kirk Cousins is a guy that if you can hold off and get your quarterback later and you can get Kirk Cousins, I think he's that guy. He's going to air it out a lot. They're going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to have Bijan Robinson to open things up. He's going to toss screen passes to Bijan Robinson.
Tyler Algiers is still expected to have a very big role, and he can run.
Oh, yeah, he's a good ball player, man.
I mean, let's be honest.
It's going to be a multi-dimensional offense for the first time in how long down in Atlanta?
A long time, and I think you want to get your piece of it. I'm happy reaching for Kirk ahead of his ADP, which I think he's going too low personally. I think he's a guy that you're going to have on your team, and he is going to be – I'm going to use the comparison here, and it's probably sacrilege. All the people in this chat are going to hate me. It's like Tom Brady the year that they went undefeated. He's going to carry teams like that. He's going to throw for 300 with 3+ touchdowns every single week. Kirk Cousins is the league winner for me this year, guys.
I don't hate it, man. I'm high on him too. He's one of my bounce back players.
It makes sense.
If I miss, and Zach Robinson's the offensive coordinator, it's the Rams passing offense. It's the same system, the Shanahan McVay system. that we're at Chicago is running it too with Shane Waldron, Zach Robinson. These guys all work for McVay. Kirk Cousins, savvy veteran. Just knows where to go with the ball. Smart player. Not going to beat you with too many interceptions. Lately he's been a lot smarter with the ball. I mean, just a good veteran. He's going to throw. I think a good chance to throw for 4,000 yards.
I love it, man. Zim, I know we talked briefly about your guy earlier, but why is he going to win you a league?
It's Tyreek Hill. He's the best offensive player in football, has been for about 4 years now, but people are just now finally starting to realize it. I drafted him, I think, 3rd overall in our barroom draft 2 years ago, and I caught a lot of heat for it. And I've been proven right time and time again since then. So I'm injuring my shoulder all over again, patting myself on the back for this one as really just an opportunity to say, I told you so. This guy is the greatest player on the offensive side of the ball that currently exists. And I understand you have to have probably a top 4 draft pick to get him. I do. It sucks. But don't overthink it. It's my entire draft strategy. I've been preaching it for 5 years now with you guys. Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it.
When you think about Tyreek Hill, the players that are worthy of a first round pick, like CD and CMC, Tyreek Hill, like those 3 guys are definite top first round picks.
Absolutely.
That's it. You could say, that's it. Justin Jefferson, okay, I could get in on that. Jamar Chase, I can get in on that. Breece Hall, I think, is probably up there to me, one of my top players, because there's no one behind him if he stays healthy.
And knowing our draft order so early, as we do in our barroom league.
Yeah.
I know I have the 2nd overall pick. I know that my draft list only needs to be 2 players long because, I mean, the board develops from there. So yeah, I'm going to make my 100-player list like I do every year. And then I only go up to 100 players, by the way. I don't know if anybody else does this. I go through 100 players. I get tired. I'm like, I don't really feel like doing this. And I just go by my gut for the rest of the draft.
10 rounds. Yeah.
That's it. I run through it in 10 rounds. In our league, it'll be closer to 8. And then I'm just like, you know what? Who do I feel like drafting? I know that Tooch, you're very much an analytics guy. You're very much into the average draft position. This guy's, he's got this to account for that. He's got this to account for that. You can back it all up hard. And I understand it. I think it's awesome. I'm not that guy.
And that's fine.
We are so opposite on it. Yep. Well, I think it's awesome because
we're getting to the same point, though.
That's it. It validates to a lot of our viewers, too, that there's no correct way or there's no wrong way to approach fantasy football. As long as you're knowledgeable about what you're doing, as long as you're watching shows like this, consuming the content, understanding what you're listening to, you can kind of just wing it, or you can get, balls deep into it. Excuse my phrasing, but you go all the way in, and they're both valid options, and I love it, and it's fun, and I think that Tooch and I know Tooch has won the league. I know I have been in the championship game for our league, so that's why I say it validates both of these approaches. And anyway, Tyreek Hill, he's good. Why is it more difficult than that?
Yep.
He's good.
He's good.
Yep. Those are the offenses you want to target. Teams like Miami, the Rams, the 49ers, the Chiefs, all of these. I'm probably leaving some out here, but I actually have to get going pretty soon too, Joe.
That's fine.
The girls are running around up there. I just wanted to go over kind of what's going on this week. Got Bare Their Souls tomorrow. I'll be on with Dan and Aldo. Weekend sports betting tips on Friday. I'm really busy. Barroom draft is when? We do a live
August 31st.
August 31st. So 11 days. We'll be doing that. And
we also have tomorrow night, Tooch. You got somebody big just died before.
That's right. Somebody big just died before Bare Your Souls.
Got Phil Donahue coming up tomorrow before Bare Your Souls.
Yep.
Tune in for that. And you're also back on Friday, Tooch.
Back on Friday with weekend sports betting tips with Anthony and Sean. And then Sunday, Barfly Tailgate Show. And then when's the actual first episode of Fantasy Football Goon before the game? Right, week.
It is
Sunday the 9th?
September 8th, I believe.
8th, yeah, Sunday
September
the 8th.
8th is week 1. Yes.
September 8th is week 1. So we will have our first show directly following the Barfly Tailgate show, leading all the way up to kickoff. We'll get you guys ready, answer all your questions like we did tonight. 2.5 hours of fantasy draft prep. We did it all. It's all here for you. Tooch, Zim, of course, Adam. Appreciate you guys. One last thing I wanted to bring up before we close it up is just make sure you got a good commissioner. If you have issues with your league, if you have things that seem unjust, have them reach out to me. I'll take care of it.
All right, fellas. Good talking. Great show.
Been a great show. Appreciate you guys. And of course, major shout out to Adam Shaw. He had to bounce, and Tuchin's going to get out of here. We're all going to get out of here in a second. But and lastly, got to shout out the chat room.
I love you, buddy.
Appreciate you guys, Zim. Thank you for sitting in for Fantasy Football Goon. I'm Joe Mandel, the Goon. That's John Santucci, the Tooch. Steven Zim Zimmerman, special guest co-host. And of course, Adam Shaw, the man with the plan. A huge thank you to everyone in the chat room for hanging out with us all night. It's been a lot of fun. We'll be back to help you all season long on Fantasy Football Goon. See you guys next time. God bless America. God bless football. And as always, let's kick some ass. Go have a great draft, and we'll see you guys at the start of the season. Adios.